Welcome to Bitcoin Talk Show, episode number 13. We are live on the Mad Bitcoins channel because dark news is on the World Crypto Network. Watch dark news at worldcryptonetwork.com. If you'd like to join the Bitcoin Talk Show, you can Skype us at worldcryptonetwork.com or call us at 1-516-900-4WCN. That's 4926. We've already had one Skype call and one phone call. We apologize for getting on the air so late. Please call us back now, and we'll talk to you about Bitcoin, Dogecoin, or whatever else is going on. We're joined by Chris Ellis. Say hello, Chris.
Hello.
Chris is interested in going to Washington, D.C. for Bitcoin in the Beltway, and New Hampshire for PorcFest, and maybe even California. We've set up a Bitcoin address for Chris, so if you'd like to donate and help Chris fly across the ocean, which apparently takes $3,000 to get him there and back. So if you've got some extra Bitcoins, maybe you mined them back in the day, don't have anything to do with them, got them on a paper wallet, go ahead and import them. We've got our first call live on the Bitcoin Network. Century, Florida. Hello, you're on the air on Bitcoin Talk Show.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail.
Century, Florida, you're on the air. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, Tom?
It's going good. What's your name and where are you from?
My name's Ray. I'm from Florida.
All right, Ray from Florida. Do you have a question or a comment for a Bitcoin Talk Show?
So, yeah, if I could indulge you just briefly. So I recently, actually this past weekend, my Coinbase account was hacked. And I lost some coins, and it started getting me thinking, what should the community response be? The is one of sort of self-reliance to the extreme. So what should the response of the community be to these kinds of events?
Well,
I'm not sure I have a particular answer, but I think it's something the community needs to deal with, because it seems to me that the more adoption rises, the more of these events may occur. I know education is certainly a part of it. I'm now going to be forced to deal more seriously with cybersecurity issues. But I'm just wondering what your take on that is.
Well, the first question is, let's try to work through your hack and what happened. Did you have two-factor security turned on?
Yeah, so I had two-factor authentication, but what I noticed with Coinbase is that apparently two-factor authentication is not needed, for instance, to reset passwords. So what happened is that an individual basically hacked an email account that I had, and I guess from that they were able to discern that that email address was associated with a Coinbase account.
Okay, and then they probably watched your computer, or do you think they key logged you? Do you have a?
I don't think so, because I'm pretty diligent at the virus virus checking. I use a Mac, and so it's less prone to that kind of stuff. I scan it before I log in to my Coinbase. I always scan my computer, and I use a password safe.
Okay.
For my Coinbase password, so on a separate device.
That's generally it sounds really good what you had going on. I mean, the main thing I look for is the two-factor. The other question is, what kind of email did you have?
So well, here's the kicker. So I had a Comcast email, and I've been told recently by Reddit folks that that's probably the worst email to have in terms of security.
That's unfortunate, because it sounds like where they got in is through the email. So if you had, I know that Google Mail has two-factor authentication, so it's just, Yeah,
I've got 2FA on that. But I think basically what I'm going to do moving forward is I'm basically going to move to convert all my email communications to encrypted email services like Hushmail or Proton Mail.
That sounds very good.
Both of those are very good, yeah.
And then I'm basically going to establish a computer that never touches the internet to handle the signing of my transactions, and then I'll transport the data to a computer that is connected to the net to broadcast the information to the Bitcoin network. So I think I'm going to move in that direction.
It's unfortunate. It sounds like it's a lot of steps to go through, but our computers just aren't really secure for Bitcoin right now, is what it seems like.
Yeah. This I think is probably the number one hurdle to mass adoption.
Yeah.
But I'm curious as to your take on the community response to these kinds of things. I know that people have proposed to not very positive response from the community, sort of tracking coins or sort of flagging coins as sort of stolen coins, which would make the coins unfungible. I don't know. It is a public ledger. The blockchain is a public ledger. You can basically see where stolen coins are going. Should the community work to, ban verifying transactions from those addresses, or what? I don't know what it seems to me that there should be some kind of a response, but I'm not sure what the best response is.
I think the appropriate response is more to do with educating people and actually dealing with the companies themselves. Did you actually hear back from Coinbase? Did they say anything about what happened?
So I did contact Coinbase, and they sent me their sort of 9-step checklist. Did you do this? Did you have this activated? Whatever. And basically, I responded to that, but I'm still waiting to hear back from them in terms of what they have gathered from investigating the issue. What happened? The hacker basically, when they got access to my Comcast account, what they did is they changed the email address of my Comcast account. So, I'm sure they wouldn't be stupid enough to use an email that they were personally associated with. So I did a whois lookup on that email address and called the phone number associated with the whois information. It turns out that the person who answered the phone is not the name of the person that the email address is associated with. So obviously this person is clever enough to hide behind layers. So I have talked to other people on Facebook groups. One Facebook group in particular, the cryptocurrency discussion group on Facebook. And that person said that their account got hacked 2 days before mine. So my account was hacked on the 6th of June. Their account was hacked on the 4th of June.
Did they also have a Comcast email?
Yeah, off of a Comcast email.
So it does look like hackers are targeting Comcast emails. So as for what the community can do, I mean, coloring coins is not really a great option. If they throw them into an anonymizer, or if they just spend them at some kind of a store and get a digital good, it's pretty much over. They've pretty much spent them and sent them. As far as, I don't know, the altruistic idea is we develop some kind of a fund, and you prove that you've lost your bitcoins, and maybe you get a percentage back from the fund. But how do you really prove that you lost your bitcoins? How do we prevent fraud, and how do we fund the fund?
Okay, so here's an idea about that. So this may seem counter to sense logic.
All right.
For instance, if somebody offered me the opportunity to get my bitcoins back if I promised to give them to charity, I would definitely go for that, because then that would also have positive tax benefits for me.
That would be nice. I mean, the main thing is it seems like it is an education issue. So it really seems like the unfortunate thing, if you lose some bitcoins and you want to come back to the Bitcoin community, you kind of need to teach 5 other people how to do paper wallets. Like we need to deal with the loss by saying, well, unfortunately I failed in part of my education. Something went wrong. Hackers are very smart. They work very hard. Like something went wrong in my security. You need to learn from that, and then you need to spread that. And something like that could work. I mean, the other answer here is like, what's Coinbase doing? Why can you change this email? How can an old email take it over? Like, I guess Maybe Coinbase shouldn't accept emails from Comcast. Maybe they should demand
Well,
Gmails or
it's not
two-factor authentication.
that they shouldn't
Yeah,
be allowed
exactly. Yeah, that
they shouldn't
would
be allowed
probably help. But the thing is that what I noticed though is that even if you have two-factor authentication activated on your accounts, your Coinbase account, there are certain operations in which the 2FA is not required. So it seems to me that when you claim that you lost your password, and then they send you a link to reset your password, there's no two-factor authentication step in that process.
Yeah, that's
so that's a flaw their side. That's actually, you've done everything by the sounds of it, your end. I think that's actually a flaw with Coinbase, and I think there needs to be more dialogue between the usability experts and these businesses, because you can't just run one of these businesses with cryptographers alone. You also need UX, usability designers, to be able to go in and bake in a lot of best practices into the code itself, so that you're actually forced to behave well. It sounds like there was a loophole in Coinbase, from what I'm hearing.
Yeah. So I think, so for instance, I'm certainly no apologist for the banking system, but the traditional banking system. But Bank of America, for instance, if you have an online account with them, any thing that you try to change, you have to go through a two-factor authentication step. And that's currently not the case with Coinbase.
Yeah, you do with a lot of these Bitcoin businesses. If you want to change your 2FA, you actually have to send a personal email to their support. They actually want to talk to you before they'll let you even change it, and that's what Coinbase should have done, I think, given the information that I've got.
Yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to also say, Tom, love the show. I really find it informative and entertaining.
cool. Thanks for watching and listening and calling in. Hope things go better in the future, and definitely test out paper wallets. Start with just sending a couple bucks. And
the fortunate thing is that I did move most of my coins to a paper wallet. So
excellent.
I tried to keep some online just so I could, buy stuff from Overstock and stuff, from time to time. But,
it's also good to test out the other wallets. Maybe get a blockchain.info wallet, just to have other options.
Yeah, I have one.
Cool.
Yep.
Right on. You're doing it. All right. Well, have a good day. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Have a good one.
Bye-bye. All right. So, Chris, bad news from Coinbase there.
Yeah, it always
nervous when that happens.
It's very heartbreaking when you hear stories like that. And it sounds like our chap here did everything right. He had two-factor authentication. It sounds like he knows what he's doing when it comes to paper wallets and so on. So he certainly was very switched on, but the flaw really was in the Comcast email, and also which wouldn't have had two-factor enabled, and also for some reason we don't know, and we've only got limited information, but it sounds like Coinbase itself has a bit of a loophole in their security. Most of the Bitcoin businesses that I've dealt with, they always say that once you've enabled 2FA, if you lose the initial code that generates that two-factor, that's it, it's gone. You actually have to go through quite a lengthy support procedure with their support staff to prove who you are, so they can reactivate the 2FA. And for a while on btc-e.com, one of the more popular exchanges, they actually said at the beginning that there was no way to reset your two-factor. If you lost your two-factor, you lost all your coins. That's what they said. I think since then they have actually put a protocol in place, but if you've ever tried going through their support procedure, BTC-E, like, it's just a nightmare, because their English is very, very limited. You usually get like 1 or 2 sentence responses. They're very, very blunt. So it often takes quite a lot of time for you to work through any of those issues. But yeah, that's quite concerning, because Coinbase is actually a very reputable business. I mean, it has Charlie Lee, Litecoin founder, works there. They're quite prominent. I saw them at the conference. They seem pretty switched on. So maybe there's some kind of miscommunication.
It all starts from the hacked email. If you think about it, once you have access to Comcast servers or some kind of download of Comcast database, you scan through for Coinbase or blockchain emails. Then you identify the accounts that you want to target. Then presumably they use those emails just going to Coinbase and resetting them all. And if they send these reset passwords, if you don't even have to put in your password to reset your password, if you don't even have to put in your 2FA to reset your password, it seems they're probably doing this to a lot of people. He mentioned someone else had the same problem from Comcast. So bad news. Everyone should watch out. But moving back to what we were talking about earlier, Chris Ellis wants to go to Washington, D.C. to go to Bitcoin in the Beltway and PorkFest. We're raising money online, and we've had the support on Twitter of Max Kaiser. So we'd like to thank Max for his support. And everyone else
thank you.
tweeting it, and donating. And, you know, remember, just each of us could just donate a little bit, and somehow we could get him to fly over the ocean to Washington, D.C., and Chris will join us. It's even possible that we'll convince Chris to go to California and to visit it out here in San Francisco and San Jose and maybe make speeches, and maybe he'll meet everyone that's watching now, all the Dogecoiners and Bitcoiners and Litecoiners.
So I'm really keen to get people's ideas on what I should be doing, because obviously I don't want to just take people's money just so I can go on holiday. I want to make sure that when I'm out there that I'm earning my keep and I'm doing things that are useful. The $3,000 should be enough to cover my flights and any kind of expenses, because it's going to be an open-ended trip. If I do go, then there's not going to be any return ticket initially. I'm just going out there for the Beltway, then maybe PorkFest. So I'm more than happy to be anyone's slave whilst I'm out there. If you want me to make videos, talk about any particular topics that you want me to wax lyrical on, then I would really be keen to get people's ideas. What do you think, Tom?
We're definitely going to be making videos. We've been talking with Megan Lords about a special live edition of the Bitcoin group, probably featuring you, myself, Davi, Christoph will be there, Andreas will be there. I'm even told that Stephanie from Let's Talk Bitcoin would like to join us, and we'll just be having a huge group meet out, probably in a hotel room somewhere with a bunch of laptops. So that's our first planned event. Also, I'm selling a t-shirt sponsorship for Mad Bitcoins. If you're a Bitcoin company, you'd like me to wear your t-shirt, we're going for $500 a day for the 3-day conference. We could probably do a similar t-shirt for Chris. I'm not sure if he'll wear the shirt, but same idea. We're just trying to raise money, get the flight money. It costs a lot of money to travel across the country or to travel over the ocean. So both of these fundraisers are going to be going on, and we need your help. So that's
very cool, very cool. Well, I've already raised quite a lot of money. I mean, I wasn't really expecting it. You just kind of launched it on me, and I think we're up to, how much are we up to?
Well, we're
300. So about $366, but some of that was already in there because that was like a donation address from before.
Yep, but we have 13 donors have donated so far, and let's go ahead and refresh the page.
I've had some more as well, because Coin Artist has been accepting donations on my behalf in Pinkcoin and some other ones that I didn't have addresses for. So I know that there is some more coming.
I know that Max Kaiser has startjoin.com, and that's a crowdfunding website, and that very soon we're going to get on there, and that'll allow people to donate with even credit cards, right? PayPal, credit cards.
I don't know why anyone would want to do it, but it's there if you want the option.
People want to do it. They have extra money. And
No, I mean, why would they use credit cards? Not why would they donate? Like, you can use Bitcoin on StartJoin. It's like the only crowdfunding website, or the only big one that you actually can use Bitcoin on, because Patreon, I noticed, still don't take Bitcoin. They promised us that it would be in a couple of weeks, like maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, and it's still not there yet. I noticed that they're getting quite a large user base now. They're getting quite a lot of content creators on there, so it would be very, very good if they could start accepting crypto.
That would be very cool. I know that I talked to Adam B. Levine yesterday, and he said he has a planned interview with the Patreon CEO very soon. So
brilliant. That's great.
That on letstalkbitcoin.com. And of course, we'd like to welcome everyone that's watching us right now from followthecoin.com. And we're also live on worldcryptonetwork.com. Let's just go ahead and pull this up. Follow the Coin, World Crypto. And we're also live on madbitcoins.com. So we'd like to thank all of these people. So thank you for joining us from followthecoin.com, home of Dogecoin. World Crypto Network, home of all crypto coins. And Mad Bitcoins, also fond of the altcoins. And that we're being simulcast. We're on at the same time as Dark News. So if you'd like to go ahead and check out the World Crypto Network channel, you can watch some Dark News, maybe come back over here, flip back and forth. We've got 2 cryptocurrency shows at the same time. That's impressive. But our top story today is Google joins Yahoo in offering Bitcoin prices. It took one day for Google to copy Yahoo. Yahoo added it to Yahoo Finance. Google added it to Google Finance. Is this how it's going to go in the future? Is everyone just going to adopt something the day after their competitor? Chris Ellis.
Well, like Yahoo lost that business that race ages ago, so I don't really see that as being a really big deal.
But Yahoo was first this time by a whole day. There was a 24-hour period where Yahoo was superior to Google. That 24 hours is over. Google has equalized it. So basically what I'm seeing here is we just need Yahoo to accept Bitcoin.
Well, Yahoo are desperate. Yahoo are desperate to look cool. That's what they want to. They want to be trendy. They want to be current, and anything they can do to ride on that bandwagon, that they will take. So I think actually Yahoo would be a very, very good strategy if you wanted to get Bitcoin accepted to one of these large online businesses, one of these mega kind of tech startups. Then I think that Yahoo is probably your best bet. But actually, you know, Google have been in this for a long time. Google were into Bitcoin from, I think, back in 2009. They've been talking about smart property and smart contracts for ages. They did an interview with Stephanie actually on Let's Talk Bitcoin back in the early days, like before episode 30-ish, something like that. And so they've been into this long before Yahoo has. So I don't begrudge Google for doing what they did.
I've said for a while that Yahoo should launch their own version of YouTube, but you could get Bitcoin tips, and they could maybe get some of the top YouTubers over there and bribe them with the Bitcoin and bribe them with some kind of a Yahoo job or something, and then Yahoo could be cool, and they could have something that's cool. So there's an idea, Yahoo. You could buy the World Crypto Network and you know, have Bitcoin shows. You could just go, Yahoo could go entirely Bitcoin. It's not that far away. It would get you a lot of buzz in the press. I think people would like that. Let's see. Our other story. BitPay partners with Atlanta band Mastodon. Mastodon, which is apparently a hard rock band. Let's see. Nominated for 2 Grammy Awards, has joined into a digital currency partnership with BitPay. Very cool news. Mastodon. I'm sure we can't play any of their music thanks to Google's copyright searching engine that even searches inside these videos. But Chris, what do you think about Mastodon? It sounds like heavy metal music.
I don't really know much about it, but what I do think though is that we desperately need content creators to be compensated for their time and their effort, because a lot of the internet we take for granted, and we spend a lot of our time on Google. I know I do, and it's almost like the air we breathe now. Like we just expect it to be there. When was the last time you went to Google and it didn't load up, unless there was a problem with your internet? If Google doesn't load up, your internet is broken. Like that's usually the cause. In fact, it's one of the first websites people go to check that their internet is working. And I think what happens is we just take this for granted. We go out every day, we consume all this content, and we don't think about the sacrifice that went into generating it. We don't think of all the hard work that went on behind the scenes. Now, in social psychology or behavioral economics, there's this concept called the endowment effect, which is where, like, as a business owner or some kind of entrepreneur, the way you can help raise your prices is by helping your customers understand just how much work went into generating it, so that they can see what's going on behind the scenes. Think of it this way. Think of it in the sense that people want to spend their money with you. They're just looking for an excuse, right? You've got to make it safe for them to spend their money with you. I think what we have to do is make sure that as well as having a technological innovation, we also have a values innovation. There also needs to be a cultural shift. And I've been calling for a while now to have a bot, like a little plug-in for your browser that you front load with some Bitcoins ahead of time. And then every time you go on the web or you're browsing through a page, it'll look to see if there's a Bitcoin address on that page. It'll automatically find it. And then at the end of the day, it sends you a list and it says, look, I saw you spend at least 30 minutes on all of these websites, and I found some Bitcoin addresses. If you don't disagree, I'm going to send them all some Bitcoins in the next couple of hours, right? And it has to be something that you opt out of, right? It's got to be something where it does it for you, and you just have to say, no, don't do it if you disagree. Because if you don't, you'll never get around to doing it. You've already had the experience. You've already received the benefit of your bargain. And you no longer a wish to pay, because let's face it, you can get away with it and life's too short. You haven't got time to go through making sure everyone gets paid. So I think that kind of service will just be invaluable. That will fundamentally change the economy on the net.
I do think we're going that direction. Google has announced that YouTube is going to have some kind of a tip jar, so you could at least leave behind money for Google videos. It's not clear whether that'll be automatic tipping yet, or how the micro payments will be, or how they're going to manage that. It might even just be a credit card where they charge it $10 a month and they distribute a little bit of that to every YouTube video you watch, which, again, isn't a bad idea, whatever it takes to start compensating the people that are making these videos. So, but we do have more breaking news from Coindesk.com. This story I just read right now, it says, also including BitPay, Bitcoin Foundation board member Elizabeth Plochet joins BitPay. So apparently all you have to do to get a member on the Bitcoin Foundation board is buy them. They're apparently just...
Well, this is what we've been saying all along in our show. It's just a very small niche family, like all of those businesses and like the foundation. It's just a small group of people getting together to make sure that they're okay and making sure their wealth is protected. And I kind of feel like I'm not strong. I don't have like a strong bias against the foundation or anything like that. Like, I'm broadly supportive of them. It's just that I don't think it should end there. I don't think you should just have like one group of people all protecting one another's interests. I think it's true that we're all hardwired to look after one another, people that are like us, people that are family members. But when you say, well, only for this group of people at the expense of everyone else, then I think that's just really bad news. For me, what this represents, this whole shift that we're going through at the moment, is that we are redefining and re-understanding what money is for. Money is now part of the discourse. It's a way of talking to other people and a way of sharing what you think is important. And if you think about it, people put money into property, some people put it into gold, other people put it into the stock market, and then they end up becoming shills for those vehicle investments, right? Then they want to tell everyone else that property is the best place to put it in, and then they want to tell you that the stock market's going to go even higher this year. And it's because they want their money to go up. And really, if you think about it, money, what does it smell like? What does it look like? You can't touch it. It doesn't exist anywhere in our physical environment. It's just this kind of concept. It just is what people say it is. And if everyone agrees that this asset class has, some intrinsic asset or something, some intrinsic property, something that you find important, then it has money. Then it has kind of monetary value. But what we're seeing now is the money, I think, is just going to disappear from our daily experience. Like, the money is just going to travel across the world frictionlessly, cheaply, and it's just going to be, you're not even going to notice it's there. You're going to have a thought, and you're going to wish somebody well, or you're going to want somebody to have something, and it's just going to happen at the speed of a thought. You're going to be able to communicate value, economic value, at a distance.
I totally agree, and there's so many options for people to fund other people's art projects, to buy people musical instruments, to get people the books that they need or the computer they need to learn programming. Whatever it is that's holding you back in your educational goals, what's really missing is the ability of you to describe it and then to accept cryptocurrency as payment to raise the money, and just to get enough people so that everyone can put in a couple bucks, and all of a sudden you get a brand new guitar. It's right there. It's not a problem. Or a different tuning guitar, a different kind, something that you need specifically for your artistic goals.
You're right, and the thing is, like, money is movement, right? When you're sending money, you're giving somebody the freedom to move, and you're giving them the space to become who they want to be. And I think the reason why we find it so difficult to talk about money a lot of the time is because we don't like making ourselves vulnerable to other people. We don't like being upfront and saying, look, this is what I need, this is what I want to do, and I need some freedom, and I need some money in order to help me achieve this goal. And so we don't talk about it. And there's nothing more private than money. Usually people don't talk about money unless they're married, or it's a close family member, like their parents or something. And a lot of people have financial dependencies, and we don't even realize it. A lot of people that I know are dependent on their parents. A lot of them either live with their parents, or their parents have got the rent. And they sort of live these lives as if they're independent, but they're not really independent, because they know that if it all goes tits up, then it's okay because mum and dad will bail me out. And so you're not really taking the risks necessary. You're not really making yourself vulnerable, and you're not really being given the space to be who you are. Like, somewhere out there, there is someone who wants what you have to give. And if you just go out and you just be yourself, and you're just yourself authentically, then what we're looking at is a world where that will be okay for you, and there will be people there that are willing to fund it and allow you to keep existing. Like, I don't even think it's about making profit anymore. I just think it's about being sustainable. Like, I desire this lifestyle, I desire to do this thing, and I want you to make that happen, and I want you to keep making that happen over time. And that's why people donate to this show. That's why people send me hundreds of dollars over Twitter, because they want to see more of what they've already seen.
And we do have a track record now of talking about Bitcoin and, you know, explaining it to people and discussing what's going on. And people want that to continue. People want you to go to DC. They want me to go to DC. They think it's important that we go to these places and film things. Not everyone can go, so it's, you know, important. So we do seem to have a caller on Skype, and we're talking to him. But Elizabeth Plochet has now been made a member of BitPay, so congratulations to BitPay. Excellent acquisition. As it says here, another high-profile talent acquisition by the company. Earlier this week, BitPay announced that former Visa executive Tim Byun would serve as its new Chief Compliance Officer. So a lot is happening in Bitcoin in San Francisco. I have heard from people in the city that it did seem to, something's happening the last couple of weeks. I'm not sure. It seemed that initially the Bitcoin companies might work together, but now we're not sure if they're going to work together, or if they're going to compete. Oh, the caller wants to argue about Marx and Ayn Rand. All right, well, go ahead and call in. Well, maybe we'll call him, but I don't know if we're up to argue about Marx and Ayn Rand again. But maybe we can have a nice new topic or something. So we're calling him. So this is the talk show that calls you.
Hey guys, how's it going?
Hey there, how you doing?
Welcome aboard.
Hey, yeah, it's Matt here. Chris, I met you at the Ethereum project meetup, and I called in once before to the show.
Oh, cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, right on. And you guys are going off about money, and that's the thing I love talking about most, being an economics student who is deep down the rabbit hole of what money is and where it comes from.
Very cool. What do you think? How does Bitcoin affect money? What excites you about it?
Well, Bitcoin is essentially a new technological revolution in money. You know, it's I like to refer to it as money 2.0, because it simply does what money does better than anything ever before it. Right? When you look back at gold and silver throughout human history, like, there's a reason it's been used, and that's because out of any element on the periodic table, it has the you know, it's fungible, it's rare, it has all these factors that you look for in money. You know, it doesn't rust or degrade or be destroyed. So Bitcoin's essentially taken all the best aspects of that and made it you know, digital gold that can be transferred anywhere else in the world for free and can't be inflated and manipulated by governments and so on and so forth.
Absolutely. It's been incredible. And it also gives people a chance to learn about their current money and to learn that we just have paper money and it's not backed by gold like they might think, even though that has been true for 30, 40 years. But it's just a great example to bring this to everyone and to talk about the Federal Reserve and all the kind of topics that used to be really difficult to talk about. But now, once you're explaining Bitcoin, you have to explain why Bitcoin's better than the existing system. And then you're in a whole nother conversation.
Yeah, it derives so much value because of the faults of current money, you know? Like, if we had a better monetary system, the need for Bitcoin never would have existed, and Satoshi never would have created it, you know? So it was created out of a problem, and it's trying to solve the problem, which is debt-based fiat currency issued by central banks. So it's but yeah, no, the reason I'm calling in is just there's so much going on in the world when it comes to the States and Russia and the decline of the dollar, and things are speeding up pretty rapidly with the events in Ukraine, and yeah, it's getting pretty wild. And in my mind, there's no better time to be getting out of paper and into gold, silver, and Bitcoin.
It does seem like Russia's especially off the chain in Ukraine. No one really knows what they're going to do. I've watched several NBC News reports about it. They talk about basically there's a strategic military need for him to have a land bridge on kind of the east side of Ukraine, and that he needs that to send troops and supplies through. So everyone kind of keeps waiting for him to take that. And
well, a big part of the Ukraine issue is gas pipelines, right? Gazprom, which is the largest energy company in the world, all their pipelines, they flow through Ukraine and into Europe. So who's at the heart of the whole debacle in Ukraine is a good question. My sources seem to tell me it was an American coup and not so much Putin being a crazy man.
That does make more sense if you think about, just as a counter example, if you were Putin and what you were doing and you looked at it and it looked like there was this, freedom-loving demonstration in Ukraine, they throw out the bad dictator, they bring in the new people.
Yeah, and it seems so such a Cinderella story, but I think things are a little more darker than that. And it's essentially the new Cold War front, right? The States and the EU have their guy in power now, and Russia is just kind of sitting on the sidelines watching the chaos go down.
It's amazing how quickly it shifted. I'm sure you recall the Olympics. We were Putin's friend, very carefully though, just a little bit, and then now all of a sudden the G8 is the G7.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's the So essentially, all this stuff in Ukraine has escalated the dollar's collapse because, the United States is like, okay, well, Russia, we're going to sanction you. And Russia's like, well, we don't care. We don't have any trade with you. Like, all our trade is with Europe. And Europe's all like, well, we don't want sanctions against Russia because how are we going to heat our homes in the winter? We're not going to have any gas. So it's...
And meanwhile, Russia just signed that huge deal with China. They're building a pipeline to China. They're buddying up on the east there. I mean, there's incredible moves that are going on, worldwide here. Global politics.
That is essentially the creation of a new power bloc. Like, the United States petrodollar, since the 70s, has been the de facto currency for international trade. When it comes to energy, if you want to buy Russian oil, you convert to dollars and you buy it in dollars. You buy Saudi oil, you convert to dollars and you buy oil. So this is the first case of countries making a trade. Well, there's been countries in the past that have done it, but they proceed to get invaded or bombed. The problem is the states can't force China and Russia into using the dollar anymore. And the pressures in Ukraine and the sanctions only expedited Russia to ditch the dollar system. And once other countries in the region, realize that they don't have to buy treasuries and watch like the value of them get inflated away, they're gonna move towards the Eastern Bloc, and it's gonna be like a domino effect. And nobody's gonna want dollars, and everyone's gonna dump treasuries, and it's gonna be wild.
It does seem much more likely now than it ever did before.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's I've been talking about this for a while, but it's never really been real.
Yeah.
But it's getting realer and realer by the day,
And also having the alternative, the fact that if Russia kicked Visa, MasterCard out of their company, or out of their country, sorry, they could go to Bitcoin. Like, they have an alternative system that could be used online to buy and sell things that couldn't be shut down in the same way that Visa could say, well, we're not going to serve Russia today. And then
exactly. So like a big what a lot of people say when they defend the dollar is that the SWIFT system, it's based in Belgium, and it's the means by which all this international trade happens. That there's no infrastructure for like a yuan-based, trade system. Although like they've been making yuan swap, what do you call them? Yuan swap facilities all over the world, kind of in preparation for this. But like the infrastructure doesn't really exist to rival the current state of the infrastructure of the U.S. dollar. But Bitcoin is going to find a great niche, being a payment system and a currency and a commodity and everything all in one. And it's I think we're going to see a dramatic rises in gold and silver prices, and I think Bitcoin is going to rise right alongside with them, maybe with a little lag behind them. But once people start trying to get out of fiat as fast as possible, and gold and silver isn't available, Bitcoin's going to be there to hopefully save some people's wealth.
That could be interesting if we saw a major run on Bitcoin. Just people all of a
The
sudden
key,
just getting out of it.
the
Chris,
key
you want to jump in?
Yeah, the key difference between Bitcoin as a currency and the other global currencies is that it's actually backed by energy, the very thing that we're talking about in this case, where we're talking about using your empathetic skills to detect dependencies in other people and then deliberately holding back on those dependencies in order to heighten the dependence on them. So if I've got some gas or if I've got some oil and I can see that you depend on that supply because of all the infrastructure and it's going to mean you're going to have to go to some other nations and negotiate from there, what I can do is I can deliberately hold back on that raw commodity in order to make the price go up. The interesting thing about Bitcoin is that it actually costs energy to produce the Bitcoins in the first place. It doesn't cost any energy to produce dollars or rubles or yuan because that is the fiat currency. You can just type some more numbers on a spreadsheet, tell everyone they're valuable, and because most people are still watching mainstream news, they just get told the same story that everyone else gets told. So really, it's the people that control the source of energy. It's the people that control the information who then control the beliefs of the population. But it's also got something to do with the skepticism of the stranger. It's got a lot to do with what we think people that we don't know will do with their freedom if we let them have it, right? If I've got some land and on that land there is some oil and there are some people far away from me that I don't know that maybe talk a funny language and I don't really recognize or identify with their cultural background, then what am I going to do? Am I going to sell the oil for the same amount that I would sell it to my neighbor for? Probably not. There's going to be price discrimination. And I think further than that, I think what you're seeing now is this kind of expansionist mindset. A lot of world leaders who just want to grow for the sake of growing, and I don't think they really know why. I think they tell themselves a story about their country's history, a bit like Hitler did, where you kind of get these sort of grandiose ideas of expansionism. I see it too in companies like Facebook and Google. It's mostly about control. They think that they are the good guys and that they are the ones that deserve to have all this control over, in this case it would be information, because like increasingly now we've got companies like Facebook and LinkedIn demanding that you hand over more information. I'm being asked to hand over my mobile phone. I'm being asked what school my friends went to because they haven't yet filled that out. You know, this is all about holding things against people and then charging them for the right to take part, and I think that has to change.
Yeah, that's certainly the trend we're heading to with the with the internet and the two-tiered system, and it's yeah, hopefully we can fend that off. But it certainly seems like they're trying to impose a China-like internet. You know, they want control, they want censorship, they want the longer the free and open internet exists, the longer they're threatened by the spread of information. I like to refer to them as book burners, you know, because what do the Nazis do when they strolled through town? You know, they burn everybody's books because they don't want you to learn things, right?
It seems now they've convinced most people not to read.
Well, that's it. There's more information actually in the world than there's ever been. It's just that we don't want to learn. That's the biggest problem.
Well, most people, yeah. Most people are just extremely apathetic and they're happy in their little bubble and they work their 9 to 5 and then that's that, you know. But especially our generation, the younger generation, we're a little more, I guess, in tune with what's happening, and just growing up with the internet, we there's a lot of people who want to make the world a better place, hopefully, and and the open internet is the key to that. You know, we lose that, we're toast.
What's interesting to me, though, is that America has never successfully invaded another country. In fact, war generally, America does not excel at conflict. What it excels so well at is culture and exporting things like its entertainment industry and its ideas. Like, it's a very, very futural country and a culture. And I just can't believe, why would you want to invade a country when your ideas invade people's minds so well?
Well, they invade countries mainly to set up American corporations in their countries and profit off their natural resources. Like that's usually their game plan. They go into a country and they privatize everything that's been nationalized, and they let the Exxons loose. And
apart from the debts, they nationalize the debts usually. It's the profits that get privatized. It's the debts that get nationalized.
Yeah.
Well, they're certainly doing a lot of great stuff overseas. We're joined by Will Pangman and Theo from Brussels, I think. And we've just got a whole crew hanging out here on Bitcoin Talk Show. Let's see what else is going on. We've got Expedia embraces, and according to CNET anyway, legitimizes Bitcoin. As I'm sure you guys heard this morning, Expedia is now accepting Bitcoin for hotel rooms, while my travel plans are mainly to sleep on people's floors and couches and maybe get a tent. If you had Bitcoin, you could actually spend it now to buy a hotel room on Expedia. What do you guys think about this new news?
Sounds good.
It's pretty awesome. I was reading earlier that they plan on integrating it fully as soon as they get some good demand for the hotel. So I'm sure that won't be a problem. And once I can book a full vacation with Bitcoin, I'll be a happy camper.
Sounds really good, especially if the price of Bitcoin triples again or something like that. Then we can all go to Hawaii.
Do you have some inside info
on the price?
Yeah,
that
sounds like you know something.
1,500, 3,000, 6,000.
Oh,
that's why we're in it.
It's gonna this video is going to be so funny when historians go through the archives in hundreds of years and they start listening to us like coming up with these really, really subjective opinions on like what the price is going to do.
It's just better money, and more people are getting into it. They're buying it in large groups. And what about PayPal and eBay? They just can't get enough of Bitcoin. They might buy Coinbase. I keep saying that, but it might come true.
Well, you know what's interesting now? What was really interesting is that the big players, the big influencers, people like your Max Kaisers and so on, were desperate after the China crash to get this into VC world, right, venture capital. Because if Bitcoin now becomes a key part of any startup strategy for growth, then it's going to go massive, because every startup founder is then incentivized to get people adopting Bitcoin, because he's not going to get his funding unless Bitcoin's part of his strategy.
I've just realized Bitcoin is like the new social. Like you used to say our app's got social, now you say our app's got Bitcoin. It's very cool.
Well, money is a social thing. Money is an incredibly social thing. And I don't actually see this as Bitcoin anything. I actually see this as the socialization of money. I mean, the Bitcoin's just a brand. It's a logo.
It's allowing us to do so much more than that, because it's the internet of money, and it's going to make like chats and hangouts like this possible. There's going to be funding for things. We're going to pass these little tokens around, and when we see something that needs funding, we're going to send the funding to it, whether it's cancer research or whatever the problem that we're going to solve. We're going to solve it with Bitcoin. What I think is going to happen.
Yeah, well, what it means is that I can generate some economic output in my locality here in England. Okay, I can dig up a road or do whatever, and I can earn some money from all of that work and movement and value creation, and then I can send it to you at near zero cost, near instantly across the world, and let you achieve some local goal at your end. Right, so you've just moved something from one part of the world to another part of the world instantaneously. And then it all comes down to what you believe in and what your values are. Because if you think about it, the internet wouldn't be where it is unless we'd had the freemium model, right? If it cost you to use things from the get-go, we wouldn't have Google, we wouldn't have Yahoo or Skype. Remember Skype? But why do you think these calls are free? They're free because of all the hype and speculation that took place in the dot-com bubble originally. But now we're getting to a point where we love the internet so much, we've got to make this thing sustainable. We need this thing to last, and it's not going to last unless people can spend money on the things they really care about.
I agree. We're also joined by Marguerite Torres. Hi, Marguerite.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
How's it going? We were talking, I don't know, pretty heavy things. Chris and Matt have got us going off onto world politics here. We're talking about the Russia, all the China, all the big topics on Bitcoin Talk Show.
Yeah, you know what, to be honest, I'm a little bit out of the loop because I've been in Artland, but I'm, happy to be updated.
Yeah, there's been a lot happening. It looks like BitPay is acquiring people. BitPay acquired Elizabeth Plochet from the Bitcoin Foundation board, and they also acquired someone from Visa. I think they got somebody from Facebook recently. There's been a lot of acquisitions in the Bitcoin space, and of course, we all heard this morning that Google has copied Yahoo and is now offering financial information there as well. So it was exactly 24 hours that Yahoo was cool. Will, what do you think? Was Yahoo cool for 24 hours, or was it shorter than that?
it's definitely a cool thing to throw out that you're involved with Bitcoin, or you're giving it some visibility or giving it some love. That'll win you points in internet land, even among non-Bitcoin users or people who just know the term and have maybe followed some of the memes on cable news. But it's definitely got a cool factor, some appeal like that, and I think it's worth exploiting or taking advantage of, however these companies, see it. I had a couple interesting experiences today, with Marguerite and her artwork. I was thinking about Bitcoin art projects and artists being funded by, crowdfunding or Bitcoin, and of course that brings to mind Tatiana and Tatiana Coin, and Chris was earlier talking about the social nature of money and just the social nature of, commerce or just human behavior too, and money as a proxy for a lot of that. So I had an interesting experience today I'd like to share, but I don't want to totally change the subject unless we're ready for a new topic.
I think we're ready. Go for it, Will.
Go for it.
So earlier today, my brother's fiance, they're actually domestic partners in New York City. I guess you can do that among heterosexual couples too, which is really cool. But anyway, so she's an artist, and she's about to enter a graduate art program, and it's a renowned program in New York City, and she's a very accomplished artist. Everything: sculpting, painting, installations. I'm not sure of all the terms, but I'm sure Marguerite might be able to help me out. There's a kind of performance art that's not like singing, dancing. You just like show up and you are the art. Like you, the artist, is the art. Anyway, she's doing all these mediums of art. And Marguerite, do you want to chime in with what that's called exactly?
You're just right. It's called performance art. That's what it's called.
Oh, sure. So it's another kind of performance art. Okay, cool.
Sounds like Yoko Onism.
Sure. Very, very similar to that kind of stuff. So anyway, she sent me an article on Medium about Bitcoin. I'll share my screen here, and folks can take a peek at that. Here, 1 second. Let's get that going. I'm not sure that'll work, but we'll try it. Okay. So it's called, it's on Medium. It's called Bitcoin for Digital Art, and it's just goes through some really interesting philosophical points, just about how the problems that artists have faced in the past and the problems that they're currently facing as the technology age kind of matures upon us, and other interesting questions too, like how do you validate originals and things like that in the digital age. And it brings up Bitcoin as a potential solution, and Namecoin too, for some of these issues that artists are facing. So it's a fascinating read, even for the non-artists out there, if you're a fan of Bitcoin. But what it led me to was a discussion with her about. Let's see, turn the screen share off here. There we go. It led to an interesting exchange of emails between us about the problems that she sees in Bitcoin and the kinds of the problems that she sees in art, and the whole like the art gallery elitism kind of thing going on in New York City. And we started. She introduced me to a TED Talk about I don't know, this artist / musician. Her name is she's incredibly popular. I've never heard of her. It's a TED Talk. Her name is Amanda. Oh gosh, what's the last name? Amanda Palmer. She's like a punk rocker. I guess she calls her music like punk and cabaret, like a combination of punk and cabaret, which sounds very interesting. I listened to a little bit today for the first time. But this TED Talk was fantastic. I highly recommend people try to take a peek at this. Amanda Palmer, TED Talks. And she talks about sharing, like essentially the sharing economy, and how, the problem with, we talk about the problems with funding art, and we mostly talk about the music industry and those defunct models. And the problems are that these industry moguls are asking, how can we make people pay for music in the digital age? And she brings up the excellent point that you're asking the wrong question. It's not about making people pay for your songs or whatever. It's about letting people pay for them. You know, asking instead of making people pay for this stuff. The TED Talk's fantastic, but it made me think a lot about this question. So I know she's huge on Twitter from her TED Talk. Lo and behold, she's got 1 million followers, and I sent her a couple tweets and wondering if she knew about Bitcoin, because she's like incredibly powerful with this model that she's sort of pioneered in a way of showing up somewhere, telling her fans that, you know, she's going to be somewhere, do something for free essentially, and then ask people for money or pass around a hat or go crowd surfing and ask her fans to shove money in her pockets as she's being passed around the crowd, doing interesting things like that. And she's traveled the world, and this has worked incredibly well for her. And you know, she's made these amazing connections with people. And this is what I love about Bitcoin. This is the power of it, I think, is it allows people to actually directly connect to each other without these intermediaries, keeping, you know, which keeps us all on our own little island. When in reality, we're all connected, and we need tools that allow us to connect with each other more easily and connect with more people and stay connected. So I reached out to her, and she retweets me, and she's interested. It sounds like she's a little bit interested in learning more about Bitcoin, or maybe she already knew about it. The tweet was cryptic. It was she was being gracious and thanking me for my kind words. But it just goes to show, you know, we've talked in the past about doing internet activism or social media activism with Bitcoin or things like that, and I just, you know, was compelled to send a tweet. I can reach this person. I don't need their email because they're on Twitter. Thank God for Twitter, right? And Bitcoin too. You know, like, wow, I see what you're doing, Amanda, and what you're doing is wonderful, and what you're doing is helping tons of people. And I said something like, this is exactly. Have you heard of Bitcoin, or do you use Bitcoin? Because this is exactly what Bitcoin embodies. This is the embodiment of your means of art. So she talks a lot about asking, giving, taking, sharing, and like surrendering. You know, amongst her and her fan base, and not being in an ivory tower, you know, all as a superstar musician or something. And
I think you're right, Will. We need to reach out.
I wonder what's going to come of it, but I really think this is a hugely cool model.
I mean, like internet famous singers like Amanda Palmer or the Vlog brothers, Zay Frank or Philip DeFranco. They don't really need Bitcoin right now. They have an established system of getting donations or getting enough views to make it. But if they did get into Bitcoin, I think it would help all the people who watch them, all the people who want to create their own show, because they can do it now. And Philly D could send them a link, and he could send them some Bitcoin. They could put up the QR code. It can happen, because what you're really talking about, Will, is the seamless ability to pay. We need to monetize the like button. When a song finishes and I push the heart button, it should put, you know, a quarter or maybe even less, like a percentage of the $10 a month that I have pledged to music, into that box. This way, each time I'm hearting a button, it's not just to make it a good song for my playlists, it's also to donate some money directly to that person. And it doesn't matter if it's a famous song or if it's a YouTube song. The quarter or the little 25% of whatever should go to that person directly. But let's get everyone else's thoughts on this too.
What you're talking about here is you're talking about the financialization of language, and so to the point where I just have a feeling about something and then it automatically pays someone based on that feeling. It used to be that you only paid for something if you had to, because there was a tacit threat of violence if you didn't, whereas now you're paying for things because you're inspired to pay for them. Like you actually want to pay for them. Think about what the internet represented. I'll give way to everyone else, because I've talked a lot, but I'll just make this one final point, which was that the internet allowed for existence to emerge without a stable referent. And we hadn't had anything like that before. The internet is, in the words of Eric Schmidt, it's one of the first inventions we've invented that we don't even understand. It's a massive experiment in anarchy. And Bitcoin is the internet. What Bitcoin represents is the transformation of the texture of that very invention that we've created. It's not some plugin that we've just attached onto the side. And what we've got to very slowly get used to now is that people are going to pay for things even if they don't have to. They're going to pay for things because partly it builds into their own identity. They can start to form, like, you know, I am the kind of person that pays for this kind of music, and I want to be remembered as the kind of person that pays for this music. And I think also the other thing that's coming out of this is that the information about what we do with our money is more valuable than the money itself, because that lasts forever. the money itself is kind of transient because it flows from place to place, but the metadata on top, all the valuable information about who spends what on who and the kinds of things you like, the interest graph as Facebook calls it, and your spending habits, that lasts forever because that just keeps building up an ever-accruing database.
That is an interesting idea. If you were a very charitable person, you could have a blockchain account and have a list of addresses that you had given to, and we would be able to look at that list and see how exactly charitable you were and what incredible result you had, even if the money was lost or spent or they used it on a one-time thing or it was gone. They didn't build a statue with it, but now there is a statue in the internet all the time of your donations, and that's for everybody, rich or poor, with the blockchain.
Whoever gives the most is going to be the richest in the future. In fact, if you have a lot of money, you're a loser.
Yeah, so I just want to tie this into something I saw today. The Dogecoin tipping app is now live on Facebook.
Very cool. I'm gonna have to check that out. I know they were talking about it, but yeah, I haven't actually used it yet. So
yeah, I tried to use it this morning and it didn't error, so just whatever.
Give it a chance. Yeah.
I foresee like a future in social media where right beside that like button, there's a crypto tip button, because why shouldn't I? 5 cents for a nice article or
All right, we're getting some strange feedback here. Sorry. Let's see what's going on. Google. All right, but yeah, it should be integrated, and I think it's even going to replace or merge with the like button. It's the kind of thing where it needs to be budgeted. So I don't want to spend more than I have on music, but if I put down $100 a month for music, and then if I only like 4 songs, then those artists get $25 that month. If I liked 100 songs, then everybody gets $1. That kind of a system where it just breaks it down into percentages, and that's actually going to work out the best for the artists too. They're going to get a lot more donations than they used to. But let's get everyone else's thoughts on this too. Marguerite, what are your thoughts on artists and Bitcoin donations in the future?
I think it depends on if you believe in copyright law first. I wanted to talk about that. Like, you were talking about the importance of making a file, like, so it can be spread around and people enjoying it without giving something towards it. So anyway, so there's that, because I don't believe in copyright. That's a very more of an anarchist sort of attitude. Like, I think if I make something and then go ahead and share it, because the original, you can't possess the original without somehow acquiring it. And I think art in that way, that's going to be the future, where any original material, a live performance, will carry a lot more value with it. So, because I think in the future, we're going to be bombarded by so much stimulus, media, any kind of data, that original raw material is going to mean so much more, just like a handwritten letter does today.
Not just the liveness, but the ability to interact with it. The ability to pick the next song or to put in a comment or a question. That kind of interaction is what people are going to pay for. The new thing is not about owning the Picasso. It's about having access to Picasso and saying, why did you choose that color there? Maybe you should paint a picture of a dog. I would like that. And that kind of access, I think people might pay for. And we don't know yet, but that's where we're going with this.
But I also want to say that I think, for me, with this work I'm making, I know you're saying on the blockchain, so you could see who's been contributing the most to causes. But I would like to see a dark exchange, a dark auction. So I could place my work on there, and it could go for whatever amount. No one has to be concerned. I don't have to be concerned with other people knowing how much it went for, and also I don't have to be concerned on who bid on it, and nobody needs to be concerned with the amount of money it sold for, because that carries a lot of meaning too. That's a lot of, I mean, like Chris was saying, money is a very private matter.
That is something that eBay currently isn't offering, that a more open auction system would allow, is just a private, silent auction, some kind of system like that. So
people should be given the choice, and that's what we're talking about here, because it's fundamentally, it's not about Bitcoin, it's about the blockchain technology, which gave us the fullest range of anonymity to full radical transparency. It means the NGO can be as transparent as they want to be, and other people can be as private as they want to be.
Yeah, I think it's really important, the concept of choice here, because some of these, you know, for as much as we love, and of course the market has a need or a demand for the anonymizing services and tools growing up around Bitcoin, they do remove a measure of choice. Of course, you know, the fact that there are other players in the market means that there's choice for you know, consumers in the market, or any market players. But that's what I think is so incredibly beautifully basic about Bitcoin, is it's naked of all of those guardrails, except those that align a person's behavior in an honest direction. So everything else is open for choice or development or growth or whatever, except operating dishonestly in the system. So yeah, this concept of choice is incredibly important, and something I think about as more and more of these anonymizing tools arise. You know, in a way, if there's some sort of like choice limiting factor from the powers that shouldn't be, as I like to call them, then those anonymizing features do provide some much needed choice in the marketplace, which is great. But and I'm a big fan of them, don't get me wrong, but it's interesting that some of these tools don't have wide choice as a part of them. For example, if you could use all the great things about Dark Wallet and all of the fantastic features there, regardless of their anonymizing capabilities, like just click a radio button and turn it on and off or something, that would be, I think, a better, because I think there are times when a business would like to use some of those great tools. It sounds like they're going to be coming to market with some features that, you know, aren't available, other than the anonymizing things, that aren't available in, say, CryptoKit and other in-browser options. So more choice is better, for sure.
And I do think it goes back to what Polonius said, this above all, to thine own self be true. If we really are being tracked, if they really do know everything, if you're acting, you know, goodly and properly, you're trying to help people, you're trying to educate yourself and to learn about the world and to improve things, that's going to show in your actions and in your trail that you're leaving behind. And when you donate it to a good cause with Bitcoin, it's going to show not just that you donated, but it's going to show that forever in the blockchain. This new kind of Orwellian, I don't know what to call it. I don't know. What do you got?
So the way you've got to frame this is you've got to think of anonymity and privacy on a time scale. It's not that you'll be anonymous forever. When you're using things like Darkcoin, you're basically making your anonymity last longer. Eventually, if there's enough incentive and enough energy, someone cares enough, they will find out what happened. I mean, we're doing that all the time. I mean, archaeology is a relatively young science. I believe it's only been around for a little over 100 years. It's mostly motivated for political reasons, because governments want to prove that we were here first, and so they pay people to go excavate areas, and they stop roads from being built until they've gone through the land, just in case there's any bounty they can dig up and say, oh look, you know, people that look like us were here first, and so we've got the right to kind of strengthen our borders even more. So I think that as long as people understand that really nothing you do is private, we'll be, you know, we're a lot further on our way, because I still think that people walk around with this idea like everything they do isn't being watched.
Well, and remember, it comes back to this idea of the ego, too, that they can get away with it, that they can pull one over on someone, that they're going to be the smarter one, something like that. There's, you know, that's just not going to happen. You're not going to get away with it. It's a chess game. Like, it's a zero-sum. Like, if they take a pawn, we're going to notice they took a pawn off the board. We're not just going to keep playing. So.
What's interesting socioeconomically, though, is that we're probably the first generation in history that is acting whilst knowing we're being watched. Remember that hundreds of years ago, people probably didn't anticipate anyone going through the archives or digging up some personal diary and things like that. Whereas now, we're going to be looked at by historians as the people that knew fully well that they were being recorded and tracked and monitored all the time. So what did we then do, given that we knew we were being watched?
Yeah, that's really interesting too, because I think in the past, especially the Dark Ages, people were told that they were being watched by a supernatural power, but that actually wasn't happening. I guess if you know, unless you believe in whatever supernatural power, that wasn't happening in actuality. And the people spreading that message that all of you are being watched by God or whatever, weren't able to do any watching themselves. They just took advantage from whatever minute advantage could be gained from spreading that suspicion or whatever among the population. You know, and there's an advantage there for sure. But now, not only, you know, it started out we didn't really, or most of the world or country or whatever you want to say, didn't know that they were being watched. Some of us did, and then Snowden, and now everyone knows, and it's no secret. And yeah, so now we're fast forward to what Chris was talking about. But we did have some other interesting behavioral quirks, you know, in the social history of mankind, even in this millennia. So.
Maybe that's why we created the NSA and the CIA, because we kicked God out of our society, but now we needed another God, except this time this one's real and it actually has real consequences. It's not some bearded sky bully that's going to do something to you after you're dead. It's actually something that can happen to you within your own lifetime if you're not careful.
Well, there's a great series of films by Adam Curtis, the British documentarian and, I don't know, found footage type guy. He's done one called The Power of Nightmares. He did another one called The Trap, and another one called It Felt Like a Kiss. And they're all really great films. The Power of Nightmares basically describes how you know, the George W. Bush and that crew kind of had these fears of Al-Qaeda that they used to rule them and that created the Al-Qaeda. And in the same way, The Trap is about how John Nash, who was a mathematician at the time, thought of game theory. And he thought of, well, what were the Russians doing? We must imagine them doing the worst possible thing because that's what we would do to them, of this game theory idea. And that kind of led to this standoff where we really did create the own monster. The Soviets, one of the times they faked us out by saying they had more nuclear weapons than they did by using mirrors. So that's a good example that they were actually fake, but we created them as the monster. Then we actually did create all of those weapons. We did create the military to fight the monster that we were afraid of. And that's still happening today. It's still a big part of this enemy mythology. We need to have an enemy. I'm sure you all saw the new enemy installed about 13 years ago. And, you know, the new enemy has helped us to do a lot of things that in the 90s we never thought possible. We never thought the NSA would grow to this. We never thought they'd take our rights in this way.
And the Patriot Act.
Yeah, it's incredible. I mean, if you think about it as, you know, society as you know, constantly improving tools of social control, and that we've gotten to an incredible level of social control tools right now, where they really have opened up the box. Like, so yeah, Theo's upside down. Let's see.
I really love thinking about these questions because you know, you spend over a year in this space and you think you've learned plenty to kind of, you know, just keep up with the new news and stuff, and that's good for some. But for me, I like to look very, very closely, microscopically at the thingness of Bitcoin. You know, like the essence of it. And you know, I'm not talking about code really. Sure, the code is part of it, of course, because it built it. But I guess the it that I'm talking about is this this unfolding of the onion layers that let us really slowly over time, if you're looking at it, realize all of these constructions in society, different ways of organizing people or communities or countries, different structures or institutions like money or finance, and like you know, just all kinds of these things. Bitcoin really, like, it strips away all of the accoutrements and the cosmetics and all that stuff, and lets you see really at the most basic level. It's about being able to engage in a trustworthy exchange with someone without having to trust them, which you know, that whole little statement sort of could be boiled down to just removes violence by default from the equation, and being able to do that alone is so incredible, you know, and it leads to all these wonderful other things we're talking about. You know, I don't know. I'm boundlessly optimistic about all of these things with our global community and society and whatever, because
actually
because of the lessons it teaches us.
There's a recent article, Will, on cointelegraph.com that had an interview with Roger Ver where he talked about much of the same things that you're talking about. Did you see that article?
I saw the incredibly awesome header artwork, and I have it bookmarked to read later. I haven't gotten to it.
He basically says a similar thing to what I've been saying, that basically wars are run on borrowed money or printed money, if you really come down to it. And if you take away the government's ability to borrow or print money, you take away their ability of them to stack a bunch of tanks, and then that generally leads to the starting of a war. Because once you have all those weapons, you may as well use them, right? Because you put your money into them, they're just going to rot otherwise. So
There's
Yeah, it's the
great
ultimate like
documentary on-
Keynesian cycle here. You've got companies that build these things that explode and destroy themselves while also destroying other things, and the same company that built the destroying things that destroyed its own product, perpetuates that business cycle of creating more of those products, but also then those companies likely are usually the ones who get the contracts to rebuild what other things were destroyed. So it's this broken window fallacy gone cosmically ballistic, and it's just it would be funny if it wasn't so grotesque.
the window is broken, so we're going to have to bomb the whole town. It's going to work out better for us in the end, for some of us. Sorry, some of us. But yeah, we're checking out that documentary right now. There's Matt just mentioned a documentary, All Wars Are Bankers' Wars. It sounds like a good title. I haven't seen it. And Matt also sent us this infographic about military equipment for the local police. Matt, do you have anything to add to this graphic? We've got it up.
Yeah, so this has been happening for a while. The states has been building up their preparations for a police state, and so the Pentagon has been giving money to police departments all over the country, and they've been buying heavily armored vehicles, and
they've been stocking up like it's some kind of military Rambo catalog. And these are all normal local cops, right? They're not exactly trained for this material or for this kind of conflict, right?
Yeah, these are everyday normal cops, and they're gearing up for something, So just going back to the dollar collapse, these guys they see it coming too, and they're gonna pay for everyone's guns soon, and it's gonna be exciting.
We'll have to see if they come for our bitcoins.
Yeah.
Yeah,
this is a common motif in the whole Bitcoin space, isn't it? And on BTCE today, I saw in the troll box, I glimpsed at it briefly. People are really getting off, actually, are turned on by, actually sexually aroused by this idea that the whole economic thing's going to collapse. And there's all these videos on YouTube. If you type in dollar collapse, it's actually trending. There are more and more of these videos, and I think I sexualize it quite deliberately. It's I'm not joking. We've been fantasizing about this for 20 years, with all these Godzilla films, and New York City has yet again been demolished by yet another monster and yet another remake, and then we all do it together. We all sit in the cinema and we get off on this together, and I cannot quite understand what you're thinking, because the problem is that everyone tells themselves a story about how they will be okay in this scenario, right? So it's only going to be happening to other people that I don't know and that sound a bit different to me. It's not something that's actually going to happen to me, and I feel like we don't really want this dollar collapse that everyone's talking about. We need this institution to happen. We need this institution to continue only so long as absolutely necessary before we've got a better system to replace it with. Otherwise, we won't get that better system. If it collapses tomorrow, your internet is going off. The internet is incredibly centralized. There aren't that many pipelines around the world that take this thing. If the dollar collapse, then you're not going to have any internet. You're not going to have any Bitcoin. Think this through.
All right, Matt, you had a response to that?
Oh yeah, so just when it comes to the dollar collapse, the collapse isn't the greatest word to put to it, but it's just a massive devaluation, and it's going to be a result of countries dumping treasuries. When there's no demand for U.S. treasuries across the world, there's no one buying them, and then where do you think the inflation goes? The inflation doesn't get exported across the world; it stays in the States, and all of a sudden imports are three times more expensive. And since nothing's made in the States anymore, you import everything. So everything becomes 3 times more expensive. And people who don't have money, they're going to not be able to feed themselves. And it's going to be, civil unrest, and your problems there.
It's not just that, it's also dependencies and things like medication and stuff like that. I mean, this is a Google Trends chart of the search term on Google for dollar collapse, and you can see that it really spikes up around when we had the financial calamities back in 2008 and just prior to that. And it started to go up again like last year as Bitcoin was getting more popular. We've seen a little nod off there. But I don't think people appreciate just how bad this is going to be when it actually hits. The problem is that we end up with a situation where it's a plague on everyone's house, and we don't even get a future involving Bitcoin because we don't have any internet anymore. I mean, what do you think all these servers run on, and what do you think who owns all of the pipes? You can actually switch off the internet. It's not as self-stabilizing as we care to believe. The protocol is just not the hardware.
Google's working on it. They've got the balloons. They've got some alternative networks. We're going to have some mesh networks that we're developing. I think hopefully once we can get, I keep waiting for longer distance Wi-Fi like WiMAX or something stronger than that, where we can have these overlapping bubbles of mesh network. That would allow us to send files across and kind of mimic the way the old internet used to work. But obviously, we will be dependent on these mesh networks going forward if they take down the internet. So.
And that technology can't arrive soon enough.
Absolutely, everyone should check out Open Garden. It's a mesh network startup. Very cool people. So, we also have someone on Twitter. They say they like your map, Matt. They say someone should plot that map over the geographical distribution of returning vets. So.
Actually, in this exact article that the picture's from, they talk about returning vets being a threat to the state because they are trained military combatants and they could make IEDs, and they're the ones that the cops are being told to watch out for.
We've definitely seen a shift in the enemy. The new enemy seems to be the American at home, the lone person, the crazy
domestic terrorist.
Yep, the domestic terrorist. Exactly. After the Boston situation, several of the shooting situations recently, it does seem like the problem is now us, and that the war on terror has made its pivot that I believe a lot of us thought it would do starting back in 2001, and that yes, like we are the enemy. So.
Yeah, I'm not as maybe concerned as most about the amount of police who will participate in this predicted waterfall of civil unrest and violence or whatever. I think many of them, because they'll be looking at people in maybe military fatigues on the other side of their barrels, like you guys were pointing out, will have to draw down, because it looks wrong, it feels wrong. I don't think a lot of these people will fire on their own countrymen. And vice versa too. I know we have these low nuts out there, but
that will. I hear they have foreign troops, so it's very possible you just cycle the troops around, and then suddenly, we can appeal to the troops, but our appeals are in another language, and we look kind of like spoiled, the rich people that we are, and I don't know, it might not be that.
Yeah. So playing it forward some more. I mean, it's a game of numbers then, right? I mean, if our white flags, or pleas for treaty don't register because they speak a different language than us, at some point we will surround them, right? I mean, they'll be surrounded, and maybe not outgunned or outmuscled really, but outnumbered for sure. I mean, this is all very dark and dreary, and it's not that I don't think about these things because of its negative overtones. It's more because I just see tools like Open Garden, the projects being worked on by various billionaires around the world that are very interesting and very much meant to kind of be a bridge. I think Bitcoin itself can definitely serve as a nice bridge, cryptocurrency as a whole, as a nice bridge from a petrodollar collapse or massively lower demand for treasury bonds and things like that. There are alternatives now, whereas maybe 5 years ago and even 3 years ago there was no alternative or no seeming alternative. So there's plenty of us who can build that outcome, the bridge outcome.
Exactly, and I think this is the internet that we're trying to build now. The internet that's not just an entertainment device, it just isn't just an educational device, it's an interactive device for basically managing and governing the world, for deciding what our priorities are, right? Let's see, we have another call. What happens when I push this button? We'll see what happens. Nothing. All right, let's keep going.
I just want to say I know plenty of military and military leaders that have their hearts in the right place. And you're right, there are contracted, what are they called? Contractors, but American and foreign, and that's true. We actually, as a government, pay our contractors like ridiculously much more than we pay our troops. And so you do have disgruntled soldiers too. They are completely aware of what's happening. So. I mean,
it is an incredibly unfortunate situation where the guy driving the truck is making more money than the soldier guarding the truck, and I think that's true most of the time.
And when these things happen, like when there is massive civil unrest and the government, they sick the military on their own people. Generally, what happens is the military does wake up and they turn around and they fight on the side of the people. That happens when there's coups all over the world. The military, it usually takes a while, but they eventually side with the people. So,
hold on, looks like we have another call. Hold on, Matt. Okay, Lewis, you're on the air on Skype.
I don't hear anyone.
All right, can you hear us now? All right, gave that a try. We'll bring Matt back on. Sorry, Matt, we put you on hold there.
Sorry.
Let's keep going with this discussion. Chris, what do you think? Is the internet going to build a bridge to a new future? Something good? Something positive?
I think it's our last chance. I think our civilization was just going to crash and burn. In fact, I'm still not persuaded that this civilization has its own future. It might have a future. What I mean by that is that usually when civilizations collapse, you see quite a large rise in documented correspondence. And I think that's what we're seeing at the moment with our own. It's almost like we're writing a death diary where we want the future civilization to come along and discover our mistakes and say, look, actually, we better not do what these guys did, right? And that's why all this correspondence is being tracked. I don't want to be dismal, because actually I think there's a silver lining to this, which is...
Yeah, I thought it was going to get dark earlier when Will was talking, and I was thinking in my mind, oh yeah, just like the French Revolution, we'll clog up their gutters with our corpses. That'll solve the problem.
Wait.
That'll ruin things for them.
You don't get beauty without death. Like you can't, like something can't live forever. It has to be finite, right? So this civilization that we have, it can't last forever. Something's got to give at some point. So my concern is that we don't really know what this thing is, and yet everyone's acting like they do. And there was a really good quote I saw a friend of mine tweeted out from one of her Bitcoin conferences, where she said, Bitcoin is like, teenagers talking about sex. Everyone talks about it, nobody knows what they're talking about. And the number of people that make their claims on what the internet is, the number of people that actually commercialize the internet and use it as a way of selling to other people, like that was never the idea when it first started. It was just a way of disseminating information, academic information initially, and it didn't really become commercial until Match.com came along in 1994. Loneliness has a very high pain point. People pay to get rid of that pain. And so Match.com set up, that then set up the whole idea of having a picture followed by a short bio, a self-written autobiography. That then gave way to Friendster and LiveJournal. Remember LiveJournal had the Friends feed, and then Facebook comes along, sees the opportunity, and then started it up from an academic sphere, because everyone has to go to university at some point. So it was a great way to get fast growth to adoption. And now we're just in this world where we're constantly being sold to. I go online and the first thing I start having to go through is all the ads. I'm constantly being fed a storyline, and I think people are losing touch with their reality. So I don't think we really know what the internet is. It's like a giant mirror. It just reflects us back at ourselves. What strikes me is how people are willing to put up with it.
Yeah, I think something you said, Chris, made me feel like a bit of disagreement, and I do agree. We have a short time on this earth. Our civilization probably has a short time on this planet, but we have already acquired the ability to leave this planet, not really in any large scale or anything, but I see a problem with kind of just the philosophy that underlies how society's been organized or how it's been built over time. It's been, up to this point, very parasitic, not very sustainable at all, very consumptive, and just really destructive. So we know there are ways of working the land in a high-tech way or a very low-tech way to make it sustainable. Permaculture is a fantastic example, and we have things, different technologies that can self-sustain, and we're building more. And in the last 3 or 4 years, there's been just an astronomical growth in those kinds of things. So I think there's definitely this is the learning curve moment right here. Experiencing cryptocurrencies, experiencing open source development. For non-tech people to observe and experience this can be a watershed moment to bring us closer to a more sustainable, healthy, life-affirming, life-enriching society, right? Where maybe we don't live forever, maybe we can extend our lives some great extent more because we've done that in the last couple centuries, but maybe we won't live forever, but we can pass things along to our children. We can take massive leaps forward in human development of civilization, just by not leaving scorched patches of earth behind for our children and grandchildren.
I think Will's absolutely right to bring up open source development here, because that's what we're really talking about with the new government, with the new priorities, is that open source, having weekly meetings, having updates about it, having goals, working together to improve things, rather than just leaving behind destruction or bad mortgages in boxes. That kind of thing is what we're looking at in the future, of having this sustainable, tracked system.
Yeah, but how many people study PR? How many people study agriculture now?
Capital kind of getting warped into in the current form that it is. The bankers have run the world for a long time, and they've perpetuated their system, and it's and right now we're approaching peak oil, and everything's in debt, and all these banks are over leveraged, and it's getting to an end point pretty soon, I think.
And water,
right.
We're also reaching peak water.
Yeah, peak water.
Right, but they're certain. If we look beyond our atmosphere, or even maybe not even having to do that, but just for the sake of argument, if we look beyond the atmosphere, there's there's really kind of no limit to the resources that could be accessible to us if we can build the tools to reach them, right? So one of the things I like to use to explain people, like, well, I trust gold, and that's why I don't trust Bitcoin, because I can't touch it, because I know the total supply if I look up on Google and blah blah blah, and it's stable in price over 2,000 years and all these things. And I just say, well, we've had minerals fall from the sky in large quantities that land here, destroy things on their way down, and actually bring a new supply of said minerals, and the total supply goes up just overnight because a new rock fell from heaven. This happens all the time, and we can go to the heavens and actually bring some of these things to us now. We do it on a small scale experimentally, but hey, we've only been doing that for like 50, 60 years, so we can do it much more so in the coming years. So I don't think, unlike Bitcoins, where you have a fixed quantity defined and cryptographically secured. It's like if you take a snapshot of Earth and the landmass on Earth, and all that's there in one snapshot is just that landmass, not talking melting glaciers or anything like that, just that snapshot. And if we all could have a chance to stake a claim on those patches of land, that's how I imagine Bitcoin sometimes. I try to explain it that way to people. So get some Bitcoins and start staking your claim, and that's different from what we've experienced with these other resources that people often write about or pontificate about. Gold, oil, water, whatever it may be. We're running out, and the scarcity thing. I do realize that scarcity is certainly exists locally and even regionally and beyond. But I think we're not. That's not thinking outside the box. There's more there, and we can build tools to find it, and we can sustain a an enriching kind of culture. But again, we have to create it. We have to take back the culture creation responsibility from the PR execs, from the big corporate execs and think tanks and roundtable groups and so on, and the universities and academia and so on. We need to take that back and start doing it like Marguerite does on a daily basis, and other artists, friends of ours. I mean, we are all kinds of artists in a way. So and we need to take responsibility for creating culture instead of consuming it.
We need a Dyson sphere and become a Type 1 civilization so that we all share the energy equally. So the Dyson sphere is the idea. Let me get it up actually on screen. See if I can do that. There we go. So yeah, this is the idea that you can surround a star with a whole array of solar panels and just use that to generate your energy. But you still need to build an interconnected network, quite an intricate network, to work with the locality. So this is all about how the big relates to the small. The last time we had anything on this kind of scale was the invention of the mechanical clock, the timepiece that was used on boats to get the movement at a local level to synchronize up with the movement of the stars. And one of the ways that he did that was to get the escapement. It was the device that was used to tell the time. Took a bunch of energy, escaped that energy, and then trapped it so that it couldn't move back. And so that each unit of time was equal to another unit of time. And that gave you the longitude so that you could navigate across the ocean. So we still need to be able to do this thing at scale, and I don't think we're anywhere near that yet. I can't see us building a Dyson sphere this century.
Well, I liked Will's idea of if we were still based on gold, that we would be kind of obsessed with mining asteroids that have gold inside of them, and that we would be this kind of gold-based society in the way that I was thinking, if only there could be bitcoins inside those asteroids. You know,
the thing is, though, you can't. No amount of money in the world will pay for something that doesn't exist. If there isn't enough clean water, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. No amount of money will be able to buy it because you physically don't have it. It really boils down to energy. You've got to have the amount of energy. And it will also mean if we do that, we do start importing minerals from other planets, remember, the Earth is largely a closed-loop system because most of the light from the sun gets reflected back into space. So if you start introducing new energy sources to Earth, that's going to mess up the climate in ways that we probably won't be able to predict.
Wow. If we can build the machine that'll take down the asteroids, we're going to have to give it a try. Let's go over and check out our fundraiser. As everyone knows, we're fundraising to send Chris Ellis to Washington, D.C. We've had another donor, $6. Yes! We're up to $369 in today's fundraiser. We're doing really well.
I'm unaware of this. You want to tell me a bit about it?
Sure. Well, I mean, I recently got roped into going to Bitcoin in the Beltway. So I figure, why not rope Chris Ellis into going to Bitcoin in the Beltway as well? And for me, it's maybe $350 one way, $400 the other way. It's under $1,000. It's not that bad for me, but for Chris, for some reason, they charge more money to fly over the ocean, if you can believe that, and they want like $3,000 to get him there and back.
Well, also, I'm an illegal alien, remember, because, like, technically, America, it's got this thing called the Constitution, and it's actually the Constitution, if I'm right, doesn't actually refer to citizens, doesn't even refer to people. So technically, I am still protected by the Constitution if and when I get there. But yeah, I'm charged because I'm an alien. I'm being penalized.
And just again to motivate people here, Chris thinks that America is like this Nazi state, and there's people being pepper sprayed all the time. So we need to bring him here to show him that only happens occasionally, very rarely. Only on weekends.
That news story, right? That poor woman, she was stripped naked. She was pepper sprayed in a prison cell, and the guy, the police officer filling out the report, was like, "I just follow procedure. That's what you're meant to do." Like, yeah, 4 people are meant to hold someone down, take their clothes off, and pepper spray them and leave them in a cell for 40 minutes. Oh, it's not a great advert.
That has only happened once. That's very rarely, and he was just following procedure. Come on.
I have a friend who's going to be coming to America for the first time in like 11 years. A very close friend of mine is going to be visiting again for the first time in 11 years. He asked what he needs to know and what's changed, and I told him basically, 7 or 10 different permutations of the story Chris just brought up.
The only thing you need to know is that law enforcement don't have a sense of humor anymore. If you're going to make any kind of joke in the line, you shouldn't do it. If you're going to have a joke t-shirt, you shouldn't have it. There's no humor here anymore. So you have to have a very humorless face when you're moving through security. You have to be respectful. And, of course, you should say no to those backscatter x-ray machines because they give you cancer. They scan you so we can see underneath your naked clothes, and they give you cancer. You should just say, I opt out, and I know no one likes to be pat down and rubbed down, but it's a nice massage before you get on the airplane. So
I want to know where you're getting these naked clothes. I want some.
Naked clothes. Well, no, they have those the backscanner X-ray machines that produce the, naked-looking skeleton image so that we can see if you have a gun or whatever. So it's very much a part of it.
That's all. The thing is, that's rubbish though, because that doesn't actually stop a committed terrorist. Like, one shoe bomber, and then all of a sudden we have to take off our shoes. How does that make any sense? It's just about creating an atmosphere that's not conducive to attack. It's just a signal they're trying to send that don't choose this vector, choose something else instead. Like.
Yeah, and it's political entrepreneurship too, or political opportunism, whatever you want to call it. Well, I think the guy's name is Michael Bolton or whatever, who's the CEO of one of the companies that manufactures those backscatter machines, and he was the DHS head at the time. He was some high-up official who was basically ramrodding through that we needed this for safety measures in our airports. Meanwhile, he owns, the company pretty much. Not very dissimilar from the governor in Florida who helped pass legislation to drug test all welfare recipients, who also happens to own the basically monopoly on drug testing in Florida. So, I mean, this is the kind of thing we see all the time. It's really, so that's America for you. That's how it works here. So just walling off your own portion of resources and doling it out only for bribery or blackmail purposes only. They're like entrepreneurs in the industry of blackmail, and none of us, that's just why we can't have nice things, right? Because we can't have access to the resources because you can't even collect your own rainwater in Oregon and other places,
You guys are not doing a good job selling this country. This is not going to be like de Tocqueville.
When is the event?
The event, Bitcoin in the Beltway, is in 8 days, June 19th in Washington, D.C., and then it's followed the next week by PorkFest. So, yeah, we started the fundraising a little late. No one really believes that we can do it, but I believe we can. We can send Chris here. It's going to be a 3-day outpouring of Bitcoin. All kinds of people who've never donated before are going to be like, this is the one. This is the campaign I've been waiting for. Those other campaigns, nonsense. And look, right now, we've just got another donation. Looks like $6.33. We're up to $375.
Yeah, maybe you can get a standby ticket. I mean, there used to be this thing called air hitch, kind of like hitching a ride, but it was these guys that help you get these extremely last minute. I mean, like after the people have boarded and it's the last chance and there's a few seats left. I mean, you could just show up to the airport with your $500 and see if you can make it over the ocean.
With my Bitcoins. Show up with my Bitcoins. Well,
Tom, maybe we should tell people what they can expect if they can get both you and Chris to Washington. I mean, or even PorkFest. I mean, I can think of tons of great ideas. I'll be at both events. I'm really hoping that the both of you can get out to either or both of those events. So I don't know, what kinds of things could we do for the audience that they might want, that they could, put us to work on, and then more people can pile on with donations.
Well, we've already talked about doing a live Bitcoin group show with everyone that we can get that's available. We already know that, Will, you're going to be there. We hope that Andreas will be there. Davi's going to be there. I'm going to be there. And now maybe Chris is going to be there. And, of course, Megan's going to be there. And probably Jason King, Tatiana Moroz. Try to get all these people in a room, maybe do a big hangout, get a bunch of laptops and some microphones, whatever people have. Try to do the best we can. But, of course, we're going to be filming videos while we're there. We're going to be filming live vines, tweets, photos. We're going to be covering the conference, interviewing people. So if there's someone you want us to talk to, something you want to see at the conference, we're going to try to represent you on the ground. And so yeah, we're gonna be there. So it's and the
I
same.
think one thought I had that just came to mind, you know, I can think of no shortage of people I want to talk to and would make videos with you guys to share with the YouTube viewing world, but one thing I've not heard is happening that maybe we at the World Crypto Network could make happen is to provide live feeds, live streaming feeds of the Zutong performance and the YT Cracker performance. You know, these are some Bitcoin musicians that you know, may not be providing a live stream of their performances. They're both going to be in DC, so that might be an idea.
What do they do?
Tom, you gotta take this one, man.
Zotong has been making cryptocurrency parody songs for years now. They're kind of like the Weird Al of the Bitcoin space. So.
They're incredible.
YT Cracker has a song called Bitcoin Baron, and it's my favorite. It's my favorite Bitcoin song, I think. Minus what's that one? Satoshi Nakamoto. What's the country one? You know what I'm talking about?
I love that one. I love that one too. Yeah.
Those two songs are my favorite. So you need to check out Bitcoin Baron if you haven't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great. It's like it's the best nerdcore you've ever heard. It might even be like the invention of nerdcore. It's awesome.
Cryptocore.
Very cool.
I know that if I had put out there that for Chris is a huge advocate for art, and I can't go to the conference, and if I could get Chris there, I would give him a really big contribution. If I could get some people, I would like people to match it, you know, so we can get some excitement going. But I don't know, people haven't responded that well to that. So if you're interested in being matched, I will match it. And if we could get Chris there for art, I feel like he could bring up that discussion. Or I think a lot of you, Thomas, you too, go there and speak art for me. The importance of Bitcoin art, because I think there's a big hole. I mean, we had Rob Myers on the other day, but I don't know very many active Bitcoin artists and that are actually making work about the space. I mean, yes, you can make artwork to sell for Bitcoin, but that's a little different than trying to capture the movement.
And there is a lot happening here. I mean, I don't want to put us in too much of a historical context here, but as far as I know, no one's ever switched their currency over to a digital currency before, and we're giving that a try now.
Well, no one's ever switched their currency over to a truly international, you know, unfettered currency before, you know, completely borderless. That's definitely a first.
Definitely.
So what websites can I buy a flight ticket with Bitcoins? I mean, I was looking just yesterday because I want to fly to the States too, but in the summer. And I found btctrip.com. I found cheapair.com. And I found one more, travelforcoins.com. All offer flights in Bitcoin, and I don't know. I don't know. It's pretty last minute, your flight, but I mean, I found some for well under. You were saying $3,000. I found some for like, I don't know, 1,500 range without a problem.
Is that both ways, or is that a one-way? So.
I hope it's both ways. Yeah. Hold on. I think both ways. I mean, I can double check, but
yeah, we're shooting for the 3,000 to get the both ways coverage, and you know, a little extra.
No, I think it's with both ways.
That'd be very cool. We'll have to check that out.
I'd be booking a one-way ticket, and also I've got to get to the airport, and so it depends on the airport that you go for.
Yeah.
And I'm quite far away from my airport, so I'd have to get a taxi or something like that. And also I wanted to leave plenty of contingency because we don't really know what we're doing. Like the itinerary is kind of like we've got to hitch a ride, and your country is massive. Like it looks small on the Google Maps when you zoom out, but actually when you're there, it's really, really big. It's not like the UK where you can go from one side of the UK to the other and easily in a day, half a day.
I have.
We're talking about an 8-hour ride from DC up to New Hampshire, and that's all driving.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, sure. I know. I have an idea though. I don't recommend that you buy a one-way ticket. Just buy a return ticket. It'll probably be cheaper, and just don't use the return because it looks really suspicious to the freaks at the airport when you come with a one-way ticket. They're going to want to know why you're with a one-way ticket. Are you trying to move to the States? What are you doing? All kinds of alarms are going to go off. So just buy a normal return ticket and just don't use your return if you don't want to.
Yeah, but then it's going to cost even more, surely. That's going to
No, it's not true. A return ticket even costs less than a one-way. It's a really weird thing. Just give it a try in the searches.
Sometimes, yeah. Theo's right. Sometimes a round trip is cheaper than a one-way flight. Sometimes it is. I don't know. I've tried to book multi-stop trips in recent months, and those some of them have to be one way, and some of them I've seen are more, and some are like half of what the round trip flight would be. It depends on the airline. Usually Southwest is cheaper to do one way than round trip. Southwest Airlines, but
since the NSA are watching this, perhaps you guys could give us a call and let us know what is exactly the policy when I get to the airport. I guess you've got my Twitter, kind of been scanning that because I've been already using Bitcoin. It is absolutely true. I mean, it's true. They probably are scanning my Twitter. I was interviewed the other day by somebody who works at the Houses of Parliament in the UK, ostensibly because he's doing some research and all of this. But I did get the impression whilst I was on the call that he was kind of suss out, like, what am I up to? What is Feathercoin? Is it gonna? Because when I said that Feathercoin's no threat to the pound sterling, he was like, oh, okay. So he was clearly concerned that we had these ideas that we were plotting, to take over these currencies. So I'm pretty sure that I'm on a list somewhere. I'd be amazed if I wasn't with all the keywords.
Oh man, it's too bad we have to disappoint them that we're not plotting to come after them in any way, and we're just over here doing our thing.
Well, but doing our thing could lead to an unknown future, and for the rest of us, the future is unknown. But I think for some people, they have a very regimented, planned version of the future that they're trying to carry out, and this doesn't fit into that. So.
I just want to...
Oh, go on.
I was going to say that since the NSA is listening, this art piece I'm making has a hidden message in it. It's physical. So if you want to try to find it, let me know if you were that good to break it, because I actually spent about 2 days making this...
And they're going to have to buy the original painting. They're not going to be able to develop the code if they buy a copy. They're going to have to buy the original, and it's going to be for Bitcoin, right? A lot of Bitcoin, right, Mark?
Yeah. Well, right. And so if we make that anonymous auction house that we're talking about, they'll have a chance. You guys will have a chance to get in there and buy some. Yeah. So and they're not going to. I'm going to go ahead and say it. You're not going to like my message. So there you go.
It's going to be worth buying. Money's worth today. That's good. Being an agent shouldn't be all just boring. They should have somebody fun to listen to like us for a while.
I also have a hidden message. Let me share my screen and I'll show you my hidden message.
I can only hope your screen share will be upside down as well.
It's not, unfortunately. Hold on. Just a second. Let me get it to work. All right, are you ready? Okay, do you see the record?
Sure.
We won't be able to hear the sound, though, I don't think.
Oh, I tried to make it full screen.
Now we can see it a little bit. Is it a sound record with a key on it?
Yeah. Yes, it is. So on the record is what I did is I made a private key, and of course I password protected my private key first, and then I turned the private key into sound, and then I got a record made of the sound, and so the private key is on the record, and then when you play it back, you can read it with a spectroscope, and on the telephone I have a spectroscope going, so if you want to read back your cold storage of your private key, then you just play the record, and you've got the spectroscope. And that would survive a EPM attack or all of these other dark scenarios we've been talking about. You would still have your private key on your sound wallet.
See, it's good
so
we
what
get
I'm
more record players, huh?
You know the background noise of the Big Bang that's still going on? Do you reckon that's like the previous civilization's private keys? And
Maybe.
if only we paid attention, because eventually that sound wave is going to make its way out into space, yeah, and some other aliens are going to start hearing it. Like right now, if you're several thousand light years away, you're probably still looking at early human civilization through the telescope at this moment in time, because it takes that long for the light to reach them. But I wonder, like, eventually what they'll hear is your private key. All we then need is a way for them to synchronize the blockchain, and then they'll be able to actually redeem those coins. Because Bitcoin works anywhere in the universe, because it's based on mathematical fundamentals, right?
You send the blockchain into space.
So in fact, actually, Bitcoin works in in theory, in any universe, actually, even if the laws of physics are different.
We just need another Voyager 1 with the blockchain.
There we go.
Yeah. Well, money is all about escape, right? Money is all about your permission to leave your tribe, because it has universal value no matter where you go. So I sort of see the Bitcoin, you know, much in line with what Will was saying earlier, as our passport off this rock, you know, because we're all stuck on this thing, you know, this rock together, and we're not getting off anytime soon, at least not at any kind of scale. So maybe.
So where else can I buy flights for Bitcoin?
Cheap Air is the main one that you mentioned. And we did have another donation. We're up to 16 donors at $381. So thank you to everyone who's donating to the Send Chris Ellis to Washington, D.C. fund. I'm going to try to make that QR code a little bigger. You can just scan that right there on your phone. You can send $1. You can send $5. You could send $5,000. This thing would be over right quick.
Yeah, then we could stop going on about it.
Yeah,
how about Richard Branson's Galactic Flight? You can buy those in Bitcoins.
There you go. You
can.
can go to space, Theo.
That's
You
true.
can
Yeah, well,
escape with your Bitcoin.
I'm pretty sure. I don't know if they have like a budget plan in the cargo or something.
Maybe if you hang out at the airport, they'll let you on the spaceship last minute, you know?
Yeah, maybe if someone didn't. Yeah, because surely someone bought a ticket and didn't show up. So,
Naturally, I mean, it's your big chance to go to space, and you were busy. You had to do something else that day. So.
yeah, definitely. Try to hitch a ride on that spaceship.
All right. Well, it looks like we're going to have to say goodbye to Will Pangman. See you
All
later,
right.
Will. Thanks for joining us.
Bye.
I will. I wanted to say on Chris's note about, communication with extraterrestrials, that what if in the future isn't crop circles, but we get some sort of like digital math patterns that pop
That would
up
be
in
great.
the systems?
How about a QR code in a field?
Codes, yeah.
Tell me someone has done that. Someone's got to do that.
I would like to see, how did the aliens ever manage to make these big square boxes? Like,
Yeah, because they're going to have a hell of a time like decoding all of this stuff, but they're going to get rich when they do. With that blockchain, we leave all these bounties for them. It gives them incentive to find us. It's a good idea.
cash in these bitcoins, see what they're worth.
Do it underneath Playpad, so the QR code in the field.
Did you know there's a marketer out there right now, like, tenting his fingers? This is a brilliant idea. I want to advertise Pepsi with QR codes in a field. I'm always reminded of what Bill Hicks said when he was talking about marketing. He's like, "Oh, that's brilliant. You're going for the anti-marketing dollar there." I'm like, "No, that's not what I'm doing. That's not what I'm doing." There. Oh, he's going for that righteous indignation dollar. That's a good dollar. Anger. Bill's really accessing the right dollars now.
Yeah, he famously told marketers to kill themselves. Do you remember that?
That was the same bit, but I wasn't going to mention it because he used to work in advertising. It seems so rude because he's so direct about it. He's like, "No, I'm not making a joke. Like, if you're in marketing, you're adding nothing to society. Just go home and kill yourself. Just kill yourself." No, Bill was mean, but he was a great guy. But sometimes he was mean. But
Oh man, he had some terrible ones. Like, you didn't even mention the Hitler one, did you?
that's
one?
a nice pendant. We're just hoping that John comes back, Jackie. We're wearing the rifle pendant. We're remembering John. Yeah, just like the crucifix, remembering Jesus, make him remember that time we, nailed him to a tree. It's bad stuff, man. Oh, yeah, Bill Hicks is the best. Everyone should go YouTube some Bill Hicks if you haven't. It's like, it's George Carlin level of quality. So.
I've got something I wanted to segue into, actually. If you're
All
up for
right, go ahead.
I've been sitting on for a while. I've noticed that the advertorial is no longer working as well as it used to. So about 6 months ago, if you had a coin and, you know, a bunch of you got together, you could all like get, oh yeah, do you know somebody who works at like the Wall Street Journal? You know someone who works at Forbes? Could we get like an article, and then it would make the price go up? Because that was a big surprise. But the market is adapting. Here is an article on Blackcoin, and actually it starts off quite cynically with Blackcoin would like you to know that they are out there too. The altcoin has been climbing the market cap leaderboard recently and cracking the top 10. And really, they're just here to tell you that there is another altcoin. It looks like somebody has either paid, I don't know, I don't want to piss anyone off in case I'm speaking out of turn, but it doesn't look very newsworthy to me. And then when you look at the chart, it didn't seem to do very much to the price at all, like it hardly moved.
Yeah.
There was then this article from The Guardian about Dogecoin having a game on Minecraft, which turned out that it was just somebody who was already a fan of Dogecoin who decided to make a game that were included. And at the time, now since then Dogecoin has gone up, but at the time it didn't do anything. This was a couple of days ago. This was like on the 9th. So actually it was sort of back just before here on the left-hand side. It's not loading up at the moment. And so I'm kind of noticing that the market is actually shifting and changing. And those old tricks don't work anymore. Like, you've just got to be good at what you do. I also want to draw attention to this that happened last week. It's about, well, 11 days ago, actually. And I noticed a few of these other ones. There were 3 in particular people who came onto our Bitcoin on Reddit and said, I made the leap from Dogecoin. I finally decided to make the change from Dogecoin. While the community is great, they are stuck using things like 1 Doge equals 1 Doge and hope that sponsoring events will increase the price. So I decided to make the change to Bitcoin. So my real question is, can anyone help start me off on my Bitcoin journey with advice and tips, etc.? You've then got this guy here who says, I've come to my senses. I sold all my Dogecoins and I'm full into Bitcoin again. Not going to F with any of those altcoins again. And then this one. And it's like, I've traded all my Dogecoins for Bitcoin. And since when was this zero sum? Like, since when could you not have a little bit of both? It just sort of seems really disingenuous to me, because like either you're in it or you're not. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Like when you say, oh, I'm giving up on Doge now. I don't care anymore. I don't understand. Like, why can't you have more than one?
Well, you can have more than one.
You clearly don't care about the currency as a whole. You're clearly not driving the industry as a whole, because all you really wanted in the first place was Bitcoins. The only reason you got into Doge was so you could increase your Bitcoin holdings, and actually Doge was just a means to an end. In fact, I think in this case, most of these people just don't care, what they hold. They just want their purchasing power to go up. That's all they want. So really, all they're looking for is more dollars.
Doge has been on a pretty wild ride. Like I've been trading coins for a while, and I was in on the first run up on Doge before the not the first one, it's the second run up before the first halving, where it peaked at nearly 300 satoshis, and of course everyone was just to the moon, and none of the Dogecoin people sold, and now it's tanked back down to like 50.
Well, someone did.
And now you're exiting, like, oh, I don't believe in Doge anymore. I'm going to go with the sure thing, with Bitcoin. And that's the problem through all the alt market, because a lot of these coins really don't have value, and most of them are just big bubbles. And
it does go back to the first question of what are these altcoins for, and I think basically they're here for people that missed the boat on Bitcoin, who feel bad about it, who aren't sure. I mean, I think there is another boat on Bitcoin. I think we're all fine. But they missed the early boat. They want another, get-rich-quick scheme, and they thought it might be Litecoin. They think it might be Dogecoin, Darkcoin, Blackcoin, whatever the next one is. They're looking for that next. I bought a whole bunch when they're cheap. I sold them when they're worth a lot type situation.
But then all we're really doing is playing mind games with each other. Like, we may as well all just go to the casino and take our chances on the slot machines. In fact, actually, it's fairer, because then at least it's provably random, right? In this case, it isn't, because actually the people that win are the exchanges, the middlemen, and the people that control the price. I mean, all of these altcoins are manipulated, every single one of them. You just look at the way those $2 million sell walls appeared on Litecoin. Do you remember when Max did his whole $50 price point? And then everyone, and then it went up to 48. And every now and again, you'd see these $2 million sell walls appear to suppress the price, so that presumably, I'm speculating that some big buyer had buy orders on the other side so he could accumulate more. But nobody wanted to buy into a $2 million sell order. It was just a game of chicken. You know, you're just basically playing with each other's minds. Like, why don't you just go play poker? Like, why don't
lower the prices, and just to cause a little panic in the market, and it works remarkably well. Like well, you know, so there's major manipulation going on, but it's still a free market with free manipulation. It's not behind the scenes, you know, curtain pulling. It's big whales like messing with the markets, and people who are just new to trading crypto, you know, they're going to get slaughtered because it's a tough, you know, it is a slot machine. You know, you jump in, you get lucky. Like it's you have to be well practiced to predict these markets and understand them, and have a very broad base of knowledge. So it's something everyone wants to get rich quick, right? And everyone wants to.
The average trader doesn't make money. The average trader loses the equivalent of their expenses, loses the equivalent of whatever it costs them to enter the market. Most people don't make any money, and the ones that do don't deserve much credit, because the fact is they got lucky, and they're just telling a story about how it's all down to skill. But all of that is post hoc rationalization. No one can predict the market.
I play poker professionally online, and I've been trading crypto for a couple months now, and I've had significant losses and significant gains. I finally just passed my break-even point a few days ago on the Verycoin boom, but it's been a huge learning curve, and people who aren't, like I said, I'm sure it's somewhere near 80 or 90% of all traders lose money. It's got to be in that range.
They're addicted. They're addicted to their losses. They're addicted to those chat rooms, and they're addicted to losing money. And they go on there every day because it just feels normal to them now. It's like, oh, this is my routine. This is what I do. But it's such a waste of human capital. Think about how many human hours and human potential is lost per hour. Like, there are 7 billion people on the planet, which means that every minute there are 7 billion minutes experienced, right? And you've got all of these people just tuning into Candy Crush and Farmville or whatever it is they're doing. They're wasting all of this potential. It just feels very, I don't know, like a missed opportunity. You've got all this potential and then you squander it.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's I know I'm like the one person probably in this group that like I really like altcoins. So, and you know, they're fun and they're silly, and I feel like they keep things lighthearted. I mean, you have these people out there that, like, especially on Twitter, that they really make things, I don't know, a little bit nicer sometimes in the community, and I think those kinds of spirits are needed.
But we're not talking about the altcoins. We're talking about the markets.
You're going to, if you think you're going to be profitable at it, you know, it's what I first thought when I got into crypto. I bought a bunch of cork because Bill still told me to, and I lost half my coins that day. So
see, and that's why it's not fun. It's not just, I mean, I wish it was just a new website. We could say, oh, it's the new website with the yellow dog, and it's the new website with the pink gorilla or whatever, and we could say, oh, it's good and it's fun, but people lose money on these things. People invest, and people aren't investing what they can lose, right? Gambling is gambling, and this is gambling. If you have your $100 out there, it better not be your rent money, because it might not be there tomorrow. We have no one knows.
Yeah, but it's also like you guys talked about on the altcoin show. You already talked about it a little bit. That it's also just about some people are buying in blindly. They don't know what they're doing. They're just picking. It's just like lottery. They're just picking a coin and hoping they're going to get rich. And of course, if you do it like that, I mean, it's just like a lottery. But I mean, trading is more about handling risk. It's not about trading. It's about minimizing your risk mostly. And most people don't realize that. And that's a fundamental thing. And I wanted to say I agree. It's really interesting you brought up that with Blackcoin and the other, what do you call it, advertorial, whatever the hell, those paid articles and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think with Blackcoin, they basically advertised that they were going to do that. I mean, they made a big advertisement that, oh, we're going to hire a PR company and we're going to do this massive, you know, PR campaign for Blackcoin. And I think what happened was that already was calculated into the price. That's why it didn't have any effect, because the people already calculated that in. That's why there's no effect now, because they expected all of this to happen. So it's no big news. and also, like you said, people are not affected by all this China FUD. They're not affected anymore by paid articles as much. They're not affected by all this stuff. It's a young market. It's a whole, Bitcoin isn't that old, and people are learning slowly that they shouldn't fall for that kind of crap every day. And sure, there's some people that just use altcoins as a means to get more Bitcoins, and there's some people that want to build community or want to be creative. Like, I like Offerings coin, and that's kind of like a really weird coin. I don't see it being, shops accepting offerings, but I still think it's a cool coin, and that's the only reason I support it.
Offerings is an interesting coin idea because there's an existing community of people who are fans of those books that I think would use that coin for fun. I don't know how much it would be worth money. Like, I don't know that people, Go ahead, Matt. I don't know. Someone's trying to talk.
Well, I was going to say that look at how many articles on CoinDesk are related to Dogecoin. Like, look, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 on the first page, like, compared to all the others. And the thing is, people aren't stupid. They do know when they're being played like this. They know when someone who controls the bandwidth, the human sort of bandwidth that we've all kind of got used to. They kind of know that, and so it quietly eats away at our confidence in the media. If I don't feel like I'm getting the truth from my media, I just go, well, I don't want to read any of it anymore. And I think that's kind of a shame, really. I don't think it's fair that we just play these psychological games on one another where we all get each other to buy the thing that we've bought a whole load of stuff on. I mean, one of the problems we've had at Feathercoin recently is we've really gone through this existential crisis because everyone's come back to the forum and they've said, oh, come on, guys, like, this was the one coin where nobody got into it for the money, and like, you try to set something up locally, like, what's happening, why isn't this doing it? And what happened was the public attention waned around the Gox thing. I was knackered that whole month. Not a lot was going on the tech development side, but a group of us were doing things like the newsletters and stuff. But the fact is that we increasingly had less and less to report because we couldn't keep up with all the sensationalism that was going on in the media. The media were demanding lots and lots of new things. Like, you've got to have some new feature, and it's all about anonymity now, and it's all about donations now, and it's all about community now. And it's like, why are we trying to keep up with all these stupid trends? Why don't we just do our own thing, like, locally, and just not tell anyone about it? Or, do something on the forum and declare it on the website, but don't go chasing headlines and trying to cozy up to journalists and getting them drunk or whatever the hell it is you're meant to do. Because I just don't think that's a good, viable, long-term strategy. No blockchain can die. Right, because it's permanent, it's distributed ledger, it's on millions of people's computers, especially with Feathercoin because it's checkpointed as well. So it's not as if, like, the only reason you're in a rush is because you want the price to go up, ultimately, I think, is why. I don't think it's why too many people came onto our forum and said that. I think some of them did come onto the forum to sort of say, look, why don't we get onto BTC China? And it's like, well, why? Like, that was the strategy. Do you remember that strategy? That was all the rage back in November. It was all about getting onto China, right? Let's get our coin into China. And if we can't, let's tell people we're working on it. And if you couldn't,
Crypto for a while would encourage that your coin would go up. Then there'd be a dump. Now it's just you get on a new exchange, you get dumped on. That's what it really seems. How is this relevant to people's needs on the ground? Why does this matter to the regular folk out there? They don't care what exchange is on. So we've been pushing hard for 6 months to get this QR code imported, right, on our wallet, so that people can back up their keys privately and then import them directly into their computer without having to compromise it. We slaved over this. Like, it took ages. It was really, really hard to get the code. Eventually we found somebody who had already written the code, the QR importer, to put it into the Feathercoin wallet. And then when we announced it, it's like, But it's like, well, come, guys, that's actually quite important. That's a very useful, practical feature because people need to store their coins safely. The paper wallet is what it's all about. So actually, I think in the long term, the coins that are going to win are the ones that are going to make themselves relevant to the genuine needs of the mass population, and not these kind of sensationalist sort of novelty-seeking people. I don't see that as being a viable strategy long term. And this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with open source. It's about improvement over time, small improvements over time, having a good list of goals and working out a plan to get you to those goals. Marguerite, did you have something to add?
Well, I was gonna say that the altcoins that I had invested in, and initially, and was interested in, that will be the profits that will be sending Chris to the USA. So just keep that in mind, because I know you say a lot of people struggle with this, but honestly, I haven't found it to be incredibly difficult. I mean, there's a lot of information out there. If you listen, if you've made your list of people that know what's happening, if you go on the forums and you check stuff out, it's really not that hard to do well, especially if you're interested in some of the altcoins. Like if there's features that I find interesting, and so you support them, and then if I don't think it's going anywhere, I'll step back. But anyways, I don't think it's as risky, and you don't have to throw in that much money. So anyways.
Well, I think a good way to invest in crypto is to invest in the people, right? So you buy the coins, and 30% of them you save, 30% of them you spend, and 30% of them you do for things like bounties and giveaways and things like that. But it's like, if you're just buying it, keeping them on the exchange, putting in a sell order right after you've bought them, about 20% above where you bought them from, like, this is just deleterious to the whole environment. All you're doing is creating further problems down the line. You're creating a gambling culture, a prediction culture, where everyone just goes around, looking at the stars and pretending like they can see patterns and persuading other people that they can see the same thing and all of this type of stuff. But all you're doing is you're creating more homelessness, you're creating more poverty, you're creating more despair, and sooner or later someone's going to have to clean that mess up. It might not be you. You might be able to fly off to the Cayman Islands with your riches and get citizenship on an offshore, but not everyone is. So what I'm saying is, we've all got to make this sustainable, and more people. The biggest obstacle to Bitcoin is members of the public. It's not governments and regulators. It's regular people out there who sort of like going, okay, this is too risky. I'm not about to put a chunk of money into something that's making 40% swings on the slightest bit of news. I don't want to have to be looking at the chart every day because I've got kids to raise. I've got stuff I want to do with my life. So unless you lot, as in us, can sort out our own stuff, then I don't think they're going to want to get involved. If they keep seeing this volatility, I just don't think they'll be interested.
Yeah, it takes time, I think. No.
And like I say, what's wrong with a casino? What's wrong with a casino if you want to gamble?
Well, I mean, what's wrong with the market if you want to gamble?
It's going to be. There's always going to be people trading. You're not going to get around it. I mean, in my opinion, people just need to use Bitcoin and altcoins, use them more. So you can buy them, you can hold them, and then you look at your codes at home. I mean, it should be currency. If it's supposed to be currency and not a commodity, then you need to spend them or donate them to artists that we're talking about. You need to use it for something. And people are, my experience, so I think the first Bitcoin meetup, someone said, okay, I want to buy some Bitcoin, and who's selling? And nobody raised their hand because they were all hoarding. Nobody wanted to sell. It's just like hoarding. It's not about, and then that's not currency. That's when the U.S. came out with that ruling. It said, yeah, we're ruling Bitcoin as a property. Well, they're not really wrong because people aren't using it enough as a currency. They're correct when they analyze it like that, because at the moment it's not being used like a currency. So everybody has to, get their wallet out and get this currency flowing. That's why it's called currency, because it should flow like a current. But it doesn't right now. It's just going, like you said, it's just being used for trading. That's the main thing right now. I think it'll always be there. You can't get rid of trading, but you've got to be willing to use it for something else besides that.
It's not the same. Gambling is not the same as investing. Investment is when you understand the odds better than the place you're exchanging it from. The casino has gamblers inside of it because the casino understands the odds better than the gamblers do. Where a good investment is a thesis-driven decision. That means that you have a belief. That belief is based on a lot of information, a lot of learning, and you own that trade. When you buy those coins, or whatever it is you're buying, you own it, and you take full responsibility if it loses value. Like I've said many times publicly, if the price of Feathercoin were to tank for any reason, I would not sell. Like, a good captain should go down with this ship. And I'm not the captain of Feathercoin. There are many captains. But, like, I never, ever got into this to make any money. I bought those Feathercoins, and I psychologically detached myself from that money. I was like, goodbye, money. I never want to see you again. If I do, it'll be a bonus. And if I do, it should be up to the people on the forum. Like, they should decide whether or not I get to take profit from this project, if at all. Because ultimately, it's not just about you. Like, it's about everybody. You've got to make this work for everyone.
Hey guys,
Yeah,
so I'm taking off. It's been a pleasure chatting with everybody.
All right,
Thanks a lot for
great
joining
having you, Matt. Thanks for
And,
joining us.
yeah, I just want to chime in on the just about the altcoin markets. So in general, altcoins, they're great because it's new technology, and it's bringing the blockchain technology to another level. You see all these developments in Darkcoin and whatnot. But you have to remember is that a new altcoin is always going to be released and replace the previous ones. That's why you see so many giant bubbles, because whether it's an algorithm or some little tweak, it's all open source and it all gets just copied. So in general, holding any altcoins, I've found, has just resulted in losses for me. And to be very careful when you dip into the market. And if you look for a value, and if you can identify the value in a coin, then you know what, put a bit into it when it's in the bottom of the list of coin market cap, and see, maybe maybe you'll get some returns. But just be careful. It's a dangerous world, the alt market, and yeah. But I gotta run. So cheers, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Very good.
Thanks a lot,
Thanks
Matt.
for chatting with us, Matt. All right. So we're about ready to close it out here. We've had a couple of questions in the audience. Chris, we have a question. Do you know anything about the TrueCrypt audit that's been going down recently? TrueCrypt, a program for encrypting data on your hard drive, recently had an audit. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, well, that's quite old news now. So, yeah, they were audited and everything was fine, and then suddenly the website shut down and no one's quite sure why. The speculation is, and I haven't read the news in about maybe 3 or 4 days, so there's something might have changed, but the idea was that there wasn't enough funds, and the people that were doing it, there was BitLocker, there were other alternatives. OS 10 for a long time has come with good encryption, apparently, as standard, and so there just wasn't that kind of drive, and it's a real shame because TrueCrypt allows whole disk encryption. There's only one other product on the market that's commercially viable, and that's PGP encryption, which does whole disk, which is now owned by Symantec, I think. So I think it's a shame because the problem with OS 10 is I don't trust Apple not to have all kinds of things like phone home features and things built in. So I don't encrypt things with OS 10 because I don't trust them. Like, I'm pretty sure they would have left like a backdoor in there. So I don't use File Vault. So yeah, it's kind of leaving me feeling like, because I do use TrueCrypt and I'm not sure what to do now. I think we're just going to have to wait to see if somebody from the community comes out and actually says, look, it isn't as insecure as they were saying, or maybe there's someone who wants to pick it up.
Much like we saw with Darkcoin, if people are interested in anonymity, they can put their money into it, it can become popular, and we can get programmers to solve this problem. But if there's not enough interest, there's not enough money, it's not going to happen. So it just comes back to
well, someone should set up TrueCoin. So let's set up TrueCoin. And let's get some fundraising to see.
There you go. Well, apparently,
Pump TrueCoin.
MadeSafe raised a lot of money on the Mastercoin sale there, and they have a very simple idea to what we're talking about here. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was it.
TrueCoin. No IPO.
A question with the altcoin. I was wondering, if you download wallets all the time, that's pretty risky, right? Because there could be all kinds of stuff on in those downloads. Am I accurate?
That's absolutely correct. Yes, you're absolutely right. You do need to be careful.
Yeah. So and I'm not that. I can program a little bit, but not like to look at a code and understand what I'm looking at, because I don't know a lot of those languages. So, is there not a program out there to verify that the different codes, altcoins, are safe?
No, you should be putting these wallets on a computer that is not your main computer. You should not be installing them. Yeah.
Okay.
That's it, I'm afraid. You can trust people, like if the developers put his legal identity out there, like Jackson Palmer or someone like that, or Darkcoin, where they put their pictures up on their website, then obviously it would be a massive disincentive for them to put any kind of malware in there. But bear in mind that the people making these wallets and these coins know full well you're already into this crypto scene, So they probably can take a non-random guess and say you've got other coins stored on the same computer, so they'd know what they were writing for. The biggest enemy right now is a Trojan virus that keylogs your keystrokes. That's the biggest enemy Bitcoiners have, because every time you type in your password, you're giving away your whole.
Do you know offhand of any of these like wallets or altcoins that might have done this already?
No, I don't know of any specific examples, but then I don't know.
Okay.
It's a big space. There's lots going on. Obviously, I know lots of people have lost money. I just don't know where it might have come from.
Okay.
But it's worth looking into. We should ask Christoph actually to talk a little bit about that as well.
That would be very good. And remember, there is a new episode of Dark News. If you've been watching this show, you could go over to WorldCryptoNetwork.com and check out the brand new episode of Dark News. He started with us a couple hours ago, and I'm sure he's finished up by now. Just a quick update on the Chris Ellis fundraiser to see how we're doing. We're up to $374. This is well up from around $365.
Yeah, that's gone up.
So, thanks to everyone for the around $10 in donations. If you'd like to donate through this QR code, there's more information on Twitter, and we're just going to keep talking about this, and hopefully we can send Chris to DC.
And if you tweet at coin_artist an amount that you donated, and I can see that you did that, then I will match it. So tweet at me, and I will match it.
Now that this fundraiser idea has gone out on the Mad Bitcoin show, if you watch the new episode of Mad Bitcoins, it mentions the Chris Ellis fundraiser. So it's just starting to get out there. We're going to try to do some tweets today, maybe to BitPay, blockchain.info, some of the larger players in this sphere, and say, hey, maybe you guys have some extra marketing cash. You could donate and get Chris Ellis all the way here. Certainly Mad Bitcoins is willing to wear your T-shirt. It's quite possible.
What about the guys at Kraken? You said the guys at Kraken, you were talking about them to me. I could wear a Kraken shirt, no problem.
Kraken shirt, BitPay shirt, Coinbase shirt.
I tell you why Kraken, because I really like the way they handled the GOX thing. Because they didn't suffer from the malleability. Do you remember they put that great tweet out, because preparation, or whatever they said, like transaction malleability not a problem, because preparation.
Preparation.
So it was just brilliant. Like, it was the perfect response. Those guys, from what I've heard of them, they looked really switched on. So if Kraken you're watching, more than happy to wear your shirt, man.
We'll contact Kraken directly. I'm not sure if my friend will give me that kind of money, but we'll give it a shot. They're like, hey, I know you from college. You want to give me $3,000?
Oh, come on. Coin Artist is going to match it. Marguerite's going to match it. So just give him
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I think we can get BitPay.
Marguerite will give 3 bitcoins.
Match Marguerite will be set. So. The 1 Bitcoin.
Chris, when I need a fundraiser for something art related, I'm gonna be looking at you. I just want to.
So actually, it's not
a situation.
It's a loan. It's not a gift. It's a loan.
No, it's just movement. It's just currency. It just flows.
Yeah. You're just converting the Bitcoin capital. That's what's happening.
That it is. But we're gonna end up this Bitcoin talk show. So thanks to everyone for joining us at home. We'll be back here again next Wednesday from noon to 3 on the West Coast. That's 3 to 6 on the East Coast, and a bunch of other different times where you are. Chris, what time is the show on in England?
It's 11 o'clock at the moment in the evening.
So it's about 8 to 11. That's not that bad. It's an evening show. People could watch, parts of that. They're home from work. So very cool wherever you are. Hope you have a nice day, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.